Test, test. Hello, hello. Hope everybody's doing well. Just finishing setting up here. Thank you for your patience. Working out some quirks with the OBS, but I think I almost got it. There we go. Okay. Test, test. Um, yeah. Good to see you, Dr. Strangle. Saria, Shinigami. Hope you guys are all doing well. That intro, I'm super proud of. Super happy about. That was a commission that I actually started back in September. But because I, have a very, I had like something very specific in what I wanted, and we went back and forth with the artist over the course of a long time, just taking our time to find things and get them down correctly. And yeah, the artist was super friendly, super awesome to work with. And yeah, this is the artist, Quartz Stash or Quinn over here. Please check them out if you need anybody or you need like pixel art done or you would like to recommend a friend or anything like that. I'm a huge fan of their work. All their character design is like super expressive, obviously, and like very well animated. I searched for months for an artist, and then finally settled on Quinn, and thankfully they, I'm not sure. I'll just say they as a default. They were available, and yeah, really pleasant to work with. Really great experience. I'm hoping in the future to kind of go back to it for a second. I'm hoping that eventually I'll be able to add more characters. I designed the I designed the whatchamacallit, the seating and everything like that, so that people would get a chance to, or like maybe I could add like different characters joining around the seating, right? So like I don't know, I thought of throwing Kakazu in there and Eskia flying around and something. So that's gonna take some time. Taking a little break now since I've been working on this for so long. But yeah, super stoked. Happy to show it off, and I'm gonna keep expanding and improving on it as we go. Let me just see. Did that actually? 1 second. Okay, so the mic was actually on there. That's good. Making sure that that I actually got that across. Oh yeah, Shinigami, I'm wearing my human costume today. I am a bird, but I thought you guys would be too shocked if I actually did a feather reveal. Now the reason why I have this webcam set up over here is because we're going to be reading through the first data book. I do have the copy of the first data book here. So my setup is a little different today, obviously. It's the first time that I'm trying to use a webcam, whatever, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to go through and show pages as we read so that people have the context. Some of the stuff is available with images here, like Shino's page on Narutoversity, but others might not be. So I want to be able to at least like show off the stuff here rather than pausing like every 2 minutes to take a screenshot with my phone and sending it to myself on email, downloading it, and then like putting it on a separate window. It's a huge pain in the ass. So hopefully this will be more convenient for people. Yeah, and to just give a little intro before I catch up on chat. Welcome. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope you guys have had a great weekend. The topic of the next few streams is going to be discussing Naruto's Databooks. I have been working on a project, as most of you probably already know, where I'm going through the databooks, and I've compiled a list of statements that are potentially hyperbolic or figurative or open to interpretation. And my goal is to explain from my perspective how the databooks should be used for power scaling. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't use them for power scaling, but they are a tool, and like my favorite analogy is you don't want to use a hammer to wash a window, right? Like you need to make sure that you're using the right tool for the right job. And I think that there is some confusion and some misunderstanding, misinformation throughout the community about the correct the correct way to do this, right? So I want to make that project, but it's going to take a couple of months to finish just because my work schedule is crazy right now. So this is a way for me to try to contribute to the ongoing conversation about the data books and just, keep the momentum going. Of course, we're welcome to chat about whatever you want. We can change the subject and stuff like that, but I do want this to serve as a reference, hopefully for folks who are trying to learn more about the data books. And one of the refrains that I've heard from certain folks in the community is that like they seem to think that if other people disagree with them about the data books, that they haven't read them. And I understand that some people don't even know what they are or where to find them. And even if they are aware of like their existence, the actual process of reading through them is kind of daunting, especially if you don't really know where to start. So, if you have never heard of the Databooks before, very briefly, they are, as you can see, the way that I like to think of them is kind of like handbooks that are kind of analogous to Kakazu, or not Kakazu, what the fuck is his name? Uh, Kabuto's ninja guides, right? Like, or the ninja info cards that he has in the series. If you open one up, you'll see there's usually some promotional images, some interesting art and stuff like that, right? Great pictures, very nice, high detail, great color and stuff like that. And then there's usually a table of contents that gives you insight into what's actually going to be in the book, and then various sections, usually starting off with character profiles. Actually, first we have an explanation of how the data book stats and stuff are meant to be used, how they work, and then going on, we have like obviously character profiles. I think this guy's called Yoroi. Here's Akamaru, and then going through, we have a whole bunch of different information on various characters. I think any Naruto fan who's curious about like learning more about the series, learning more about your favorite characters, whatever the case may be, you're probably going to have fun reading through these books. Unfortunately, the for like non-Japanese speaking audiences, only the third data book has officially been translated into English by an official source. But this website over here that we're going to be looking at today, Narutoversity, has fan translations of data books 1, 2, and 4, and then it has uploads of the third one in PDF format as well. However, they are hosted on some kind of site that requires a login that I thought looked kind of sketchy. So I don't know, if you feel comfortable doing that, feel free. Personally, I recommend that anybody who's interested in this, if you can afford it, pick yourself up a copy. It's great to have one in hand, or at hand rather, and it's only like $10 or $15. You can get it on Crunchyroll or Amazon. Of course, if you are having trouble finding any of this stuff, please always feel free to leave me a comment or to reach out on Discord. I can get you a PDF of the third one for sure, and then I can try to help you track down some of the other stuff. But yeah, so the thing is, right, like if you're a Naruto fan, you want to learn more about the series, you're gonna learn some good stuff. You're gonna have fun. You're gonna probably find some interesting tidbits that you might not have noticed elsewhere. Like in the back of the first data book, you can see that there's like concept art, there's sketches, there's explanations, there's interviews with Kishimoto where he kind of explains his decisions behind certain things. There's these tidbits and like fan made. I don't know if these are fan made. That might be the fan book, but like, oh yeah, here's like a character popularity survey, where people talk about their favorite characters and why they like them and stuff like that. So the information contained in the data books, obviously there's the official publication information. There's some promo material for other upcoming things. So there's a wide variety of different information that's presented in the books. And it's presented in different styles of language. So some of the language is dry and literal, like, oh, this is how, going to a character like stats page or something like that. Like over here, you can see that these sections usually contain information on like how old the characters are, how tall they are, how much they weigh. These sections contain, it's not necessarily 100% precise, but an overview of their skills and stats and things like that. So obviously a valuable source of information for anybody who wants to learn about the series. The issue that I have with them, that I'm trying to help address in the community at large, is the way that people take statements out of the data books and apply them literally for a power scaling context. And obviously, like, if you've been on my streams before, you've heard me rant and rave about this. The idea that, like, if it says in Itachi's databook page that in the second databook it says that he has a water fang bullet attack, and that water fang bullet fires projectiles at the speed of light. Should we take that statement literally just because it's in the databooks? And there are some people who say yes, we should, because it's an official publication. And look, it's an official publication. If you can't, like, I can't read Japanese beyond like very basic stuff, so I'm not sure of this, but apparently Kishimoto, oh yeah, right there, Masashi Kishimoto's name is there, right? Acolyte, I'm sure, will have, or Dr. Strangle will have some very passionate thoughts about this, but he is often credited as the author. And I'm willing to accept that he is either officially or unofficially, whether he wrote everything himself or whether he had ghostwriters doing it. I don't care. He is I do care, but like, it doesn't affect my opinion of the authenticity and legitimacy of the books. However, if we take statements like that, like the water-fang bullet or whatnot, out of context and just apply it literally for power scaling purposes, we wind up. Hang on a second. I didn't turn on. Gotta turn on some stuff over here. Uh, I forgot to turn on chat. 1 second. Reactive image. Yeah, I want to make sure that I got all my widgets set up. But yeah, at the end of the day, the important thing to understand here is that this is a varied text that uses a variety of different language. Some of it is presented in a way that is literal and can probably be taken literally. Some of it is presented in a way that is literal poetry. Some of it is presented in a way that is dry and factual or whatever. And so basically, if you want to understand the data books overall, I think the best way to do it is to read through and understand them in context. So that is my hope. That is the service that I want to provide to you folks, so to speak, is to take our time over the next few weeks and just go through the data books together and try to understand them. And so we're going to be reading through them bit by bit. And as I go, I'm going to be trying to do an exercise that I would like to invite you guys to join me on. I'm going to try to identify when I find something that I think should be taken literally. What sorts of things am I identifying and why? When I find something that I think shouldn't be taken literally, why don't I think that? Why am I skeptical of it? And are either of my assumptions or conclusions about either of those things legitimate? In other words, am I coming to the right conclusions, and how do I even know that? And overall, I want to try to help people develop an understanding of the context of the data books as a whole, because you can find a statement that's like an entry about Kakashi that just oh yeah, by the way, like here's the jacket. If you're looking for this data book online, look for this cover right here. I just took it off to make it easier to position. But yeah, so like I guess like the point is that I want to help people understand the actual context itself, because you can take the statement about Temari blowing away the whole universe with her fan and try to be like, oh yeah, the data books are pure bullshit, and you can also take a statement that just has facts and figures and be like, well, they're pure fact, and the reality is somewhere in the middle. I don't buy into any of this BS about like, oh, they're inherently expository, their intention is to expose information, they follow Grammarly's writing rules or whatever, therefore you can make assumptions about their contents. None of that really works if you actually read through the data books. And so that's what we're going to do. If anybody accuses you of not reading the data books and not understanding them, if you've never read them before, if you don't know where to start, my hope is that this series will help you find a way to at least dip your toe in, and then maybe go, like, you should read them yourself at the end of the day, because you don't want to get your opinions secondhand. You should form your own opinions based on your own analysis. But hopefully this will be a useful starting point for folks who are looking for some like a Kickstarter there. That being said, we're going to get started in a second, but I want to catch up on chat and say hi to everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. I see Saria is here. I hope you are having a great weekend, Saria. It's good to see you. I'm glad you got to go through the ritual as usual. Shinigami, it's good to see you too. Hope your artwork is going along well. Shinigami says, all right, here just in time. Going to be drawing as usual. Awesome. Good to see it. Got the ending of my manga down and planned. Oh, fuck yeah. That's awesome, dude. Just need to refine details. And apparently my MC is either as smart or smarter than Sasuke and Naruto's battle IQ being glazed by Captain Cat, according to Grok. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've noticed that I think there's a couple of people who have done battle IQ videos recently, right? Like, what's his name? ThunderGod TG. Didn't he just do one on Battle IQ? Or maybe it was 6. And then yeah, I've seen Captain Cat put out a couple. It's really cool to see that this subject is becoming something that people are talking about more. I haven't gotten a chance to watch all those yet. Sorry for the crunch. I have a bunch of videos on my watch later that I need to get to. But as much as I enjoy bickering over the minutia of data book statements and shit like that, I'm really glad to see people talking about more esoteric and harder to pin down things, like the abstract concept of general intelligence or battle intelligence. That's really cool. And I know that you're passionate about that too, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Tell me if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I wonder how the Naruto fans would react to it. I'm not sure. I think I would like to think that Naruto fans in general appreciate clever battles. I mean, I'm not saying that Dragon Ball is a stupid series. It's absolutely not. Or that the characters are dumb. Some of them are, but it doesn't mean that, like, they're poorly conceived. It's just part of their character. But I will voice crack. I will probably concede that despite being a Dragon Ball fan myself, um, later on in the series, there is less of a focus on tactics and deception and trickery, and much more on like the sort of mental chess games that we see in early Naruto, um, and more on just like the raw strength and power and evolutions and tapping into your feelings and you know um, and stuff like that. So especially once we get to like Ultra Instinct, like you were talking about last week, I'm pretty sure that Ultra Instinct specifically avoids having your cognition interfere with your battle acumen, so to speak. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think Naruto fans in general probably appreciate the tactical nature of the battles, and so they probably be open to your characters as being like I would guess. I'm not sure, but I would guess that there would be a pretty significant overlap between Naruto fans and like Death Note fans and shit like that, right? Let's see. Good thing or bad thing? Oh yeah, Dr. Strangle. Yeah, I hope to do some good cooking this evening. I hope to help serve up a tasty portion for y'all. Let me know if you think I've succeeded with that. Shinigami says Naruto fans ain't ready for my argument for Ken and L being smarter than the whole Narutoverse. Oh yeah, I think any Shikamaru fans in the audience are probably gonna push back on that, but that's okay. Oh yeah, thank you kindly for the kind words about the intro. By the way, I'm really happy that that's come together. That plus the banner. I'm just glad that I've been able to move away from AI art. I do genuinely. So on that note, I think that let me get this out of the way of the chat. That AI art is art. It can be art. It can be genuinely awesome. I have like a pretty decent collection of folks on Instagram that I follow that are AI artists. But I am not an artist, right? I wasn't making art for the sake of making art so much as I was using a quick and easy tool to try to get myself a leg up and get some basic content available for the channel. And I had been wanting to commission some artwork for a long time, so I was able to afford it. I was able to find the right people. Took some time to kind of being like nitpicky as I am, took it some time to actually find the right folks to work with. But Carl, the dude who did the banner, and then Quinn, who did the intro. Very happy to have had the opportunity to work with them. They were super awesome. Let's see. Oh yeah. Well, I think I already like race revealed semi unintentionally during when I like uploaded a Databook scan. I'm kind of like I don't really love being on camera even partially, but I feel like this is the easiest way for me to just be fluid and dynamic in my presentation. I considered using PDFs, but at least with the ones that I saw, the PDFs don't always have all of the like additional content, and they're a little harder to. I guess it doesn't really apply for this read through, but they can be a little harder to scroll through rather than just like flipping to the specific page. Well, there are ways around that anyway. But yeah, if you guys would prefer me to use a PDF in the future, if that feels more comfortable or like easier to follow, let me know. Really just wanted to have some kind of a visual reference to be able to compare, because like I'm not, like I don't currently have like a PDF of the first data book. I'd be happy to look one up and to reference it, but obviously there are going to be sections that here that don't have images, that don't have full translations or whatever. So I wanted to make sure that we had some kind of a source to refer to. Hopefully that seems reasonable. Yeah, I'm disappointed if it's AI because yeah. So that's the thing. I to kind of clarify my stance on AI, I think that AI is a tool just like any other tool, and I have seen some artists who are genuinely really fucking talented make amazing shit with AI, and also as a replacement for human labor and creativity, it has consequences. One of those consequences is just competing for like leading to people losing their jobs because some of the services that they provide are being automated. And then another is that people are less likely, I think, well, this is kind of an extension of the first part, but people are less likely to reach out to artists and to other folks, maybe even to programmers in my industry, if they feel like they can just have an AI do it. As you guys probably know, I'm a game developer, and like there are tools out there for indie developers where you can essentially type a description of a video game into the bot, and it will generate like a 3D game for you in Unity and get you like a good leg of the way there. So I feel like AI tools are particularly powerful for folks who don't have like big budgets, who don't have a lot of experience, who might not even know. Like I don't really have a brain for visual art, at least not as much as I do for music and shit like that. So I don't even necessarily know how to describe the thing that I have in my head. Like I don't have a language for it. I can close my eyes and picture like for this background over here, right? Let me 1 second. The background is AI, and I want to replace that too eventually. But where's the border? Image reaction. This? Oh no, it's all part of the same thing. 1 second. Probably gonna go to the oh yeah, because it's built in, isn't it? Border. Oh no, it's in the border. So if I hide the window, okay, here we go. Yeah, so this in the background right over here, this is AI generated imagery that I then applied like a CapCut basic rain filter, because I don't know any 3D artists. I am not a 3D artist. I don't know how to do digital art. And at the time, I didn't really have anybody that I could reach out to, or even really know how to find anybody to that I could commission the artwork for. And I needed to get the video out and have it be done. So I spent like a few days messing around with DALL-E, and it came up with this. I was trying to make like essentially a render of Amegakure, the rain village in Naruto, because the video I was doing was Pain versus Itachi. And so for somebody like me who really had like no budget and had no experience and didn't even really know what I was looking for, it was a super powerful tool that got me to empower me to get my vision out of my head and put it out there in the world. Now that my channel has existed for a little while, and I am a bit more decided on in terms of what I want out of it and what I want it to look and feel like, and I also have the money to be able to do so, I want to eventually replace this as well with more art, because, well, I like working with artists, I like commissioning it. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the AI tools, but if I have the ability to work with a human and to develop something that's like bespoke and everything, then that's something I would like to do. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I know some people have very strong opinions about AI, so if knowing that the background here is AI, if that makes you angry, like you're totally I totally support you having that reaction. I think I got that feedback on one of my videos in the past, so I'm definitely not going to argue with you. And I will like eventually replace it with a human piece of artwork, as well as this little animated bird in the upper right hand corner. I'm going to replace that with the art that I commissioned from Carl. So that eventually, like, there will be no AI on my channel unless it's something that I'm like very deliberately like making art like AI artists do. I'm not gonna just use prompts the way that I have before. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, I will always really actually be a bird man. This is just my this is just my assistant. Hello, wave to the good people, assistant. Yes, good job. But I can't reveal my true bird form. I wouldn't want to shock you. So I got my little gremlin here to help reposition things and move things around. Good job. Yeah, that's my story, and I'll stick to it. Kakuzu's raw durability. Oh yeah. The PDF in the first data book not easier to screenshot than taking pictures of the IRL book. It might be, yeah, but I also that's a good idea, and I'd be open to doing that in the future. I do like the ability to just kind of be like, oh shit, where is like Akamaru's entry, and then just like reach over and be like, get all the shit in the way. Of course, then there's logistical concerns with this too. But, you know, I can be like, oh, yeah, here it is. Look at that. And then on this other page, we have this, right? It's cool. And I hope this encourages other people to, like, pick up the books for themselves as well, because they are cool. It's nice to have them. And also, they're not very amenable to being just held open either. So that's the thing I need to figure out. I need to get some sort of, like, a bracket to hold the... to hold it open. Trying to use this little like knight figure that I got that's got a heavy base, so hopefully that'll work, but if not, then it probably won't, so I'll probably have to like figure something out for next time. But problems for later. And then this in the back, by the way, is just a nice cloth map of Dark Souls 2 that I got. That came with like the collector's edition or the day one edition or whatever. It's really really pretty. It's Dark Souls 2, right? Because I have one of 3 as well. I think this is 2. I'm not sure. Oh no, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's the Dark Souls 2 dragon. Cool. The designs look a little... They don't really look one-to-one with what I remember from the game. I'm guessing... Okay, I'm not going to get into fucking Dark Souls 2 lore. Anyway, it's from a Dark Souls game. Please enjoy. Oh yeah, well, pulling out the physical book is really cool, but when working on a video, it might be easier to pull up the PDF and screenshot it. Yeah, absolutely. I think in the long term, I'm either going to do that or I'm going to have to go through and scan the whole fucking thing. And that's basically what I did for the third data book. Like, I easily used 100 scans from the third data book. So that's about like a third of the contents, if I remember correctly, when I did my Touchy versus Pain video. But that took a long ass time, and then I lost that data when I moved. So I think I'd be happy to do it again. It's just, you know, laziness getting in the way of progress as usual. Let's see. Don't count the data books because you didn't read them. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I don't like that kind of language. I think that it's fine to disagree with people. It's natural that we'll disagree, that we'll have different perspectives on stuff. But when, you know, when you outright try to craft a narrative about the experience of somebody who you know nothing about and who you don't know, and that becomes part of a narrative that you're using to counter their position, it's really like I think the correct term is gaslighting. At the very best, it's like a weird form of ad hominem where you're essentially saying like, well, hey, if you read the data books, or if you do X, you will come to conclusion Y. Therefore, if you haven't come to conclusion Y, then you haven't done X, and then your position is therefore not legitimate. Look, a lot of people in the community who have hot takes probably haven't read all of the data books. That may be the case, but that doesn't mean that they haven't read any of them, haven't read enough of them to understand what they're about, or indeed haven't actually read them all. And also, just because you have a platform from which you are pontificating about your opinions on something doesn't mean that you understand it either, right? Like, we're all fallible. We can all make mistakes, and we all have blind spots. And so that, to me, that kind of language really has no place. I understand people get frustrated. I've probably said similar stuff myself, right? But there's a difference between being like, I'm skeptical about whether or not you've actually done the research you say you have, versus asserting for a fact that, like, no, if you don't disagree with me, you just have not done this. Like, there's a difference in tone. I do think that matters, but whatever. Everybody is free to call me out too. Like, if you disagree with how I'm presenting stuff, it's a free and open discussion. I'm putting myself out there in a public forum, so yep, feel free to give me the feedback. I want to be held accountable as well. If you're referring to the, oh, hey, Epsilon, how's it going? Sorry, I almost missed your comment there. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by again. Good to see you. Dr. Strangle, I do have a Google Drive link that I got from Sage's server, and I think the PDF, actually, of the third data book that I have might come from there, but I think it's a little gauche for me to continue using a resource from somebody who I've been so critical of and, you know, taken umbrage with the community and left the community. So I probably still have the link somewhere, but it feels kind of sketchy to me to be like, hey, fuck you for spreading misinformation. I hate everything you say, blah blah blah. Okay, now can you help me out and give me this info? Like, you know. So I want to try to locate stuff on my own if I can. For example, you guys have probably seen the let me see if I can find it a second. The Kaguya V-Jump Scan Universal something. See if I can find a picture of it. Can never fucking find it because it's always, hang on. Let's see. Naruto Databook Kaguya. Whatever. I don't know if I'll be able to find it right now. But, oh, yeah, here we go. of course. Let me see. This? Yeah. So I'm sure you guys have seen this floating around. This is the source that people use to argue that Kaguya is universal in that she, if you translate this, apparently it means something like, she transposes the entire universe. She transposes different dimensions. As a matter of fact, we just do a live translation of this, at least to get like a vague understanding. Yeah, so Japanese to English. Yeah, so obviously, like, take this with a huge grain of salt, because it's just like a one-click translation. I'd like to have this, like, translation commissioned as well. I'll probably reach out to Miss And then go to my folks on Fiverr as well to see. But yeah, Kaguya as a being like the ancestor of ninja, said to be the first to obtain chakra on Earth. She was resurrected in the 4th Great Ninja War in opposed Team 7 battle. I'll erase you here. Whoa, summoning multiple alternate dimensions. Desert transposition. She can easily teleport alternate dimensions such as Magaba. So, it does say transposition over here, and so people will find those characters in Japanese and say transposition means moving. Therefore, in order to move Kaguya's dimensions around, she would need to move the Naruto dimension out of the way. And therefore, like, the Naruto dimension, meaning the Naruto universe, she need to push the entire universe out of the way. Now, there's so many problems with that. I'm not going to get into right now because this is, once we start the conversation about the databooks, I'm going to stay focused on first databook stuff. But this has become such a fucking dragon to slay, so to speak, because I found the person who uploaded this and did the initial English translation of it. That person claimed that this was from a Boruto Ninja directory that was apparently from an issue of V-Jump. So I found the YouTube channel of a guy who flips through every single page of V-Jump magazines, and I watched like every one of on his channel, and none of them contained this. So in doing more and more research, I think I've narrowed it down to a time bracket of this is actually not from V-Jump, it's from a promotional piece of material in anticipation of fucking Jump Force or something that is in one of the weekly Shonen Jump issues, and I think I ordered the right one. We'll see when it gets here this week. But that process of doing the research and finding it is rewarding, in that I'm learning a whole lot more about, like, well, what is actually V-Jump, and how does that compare to Weekly Shonen Jump, and then, like, does that actually count as a data book? Like, who writes this stuff? Like, what's the context of it, right? And now I'll have a physical copy of a V-Jump and of a Weekly Shonen Jump sometime over the next couple of weeks, and it's really cool to just be able to have the physical thing on hand, to be able to grab it and, like, talk about it, right? So it's been a whole journey. I will say, I would also have been happy not having to do all of this work if people would just cite their sources, especially since I found the Twitter of the guy who uploaded the original translation, and they were very clear in saying, please do not use my translations without permission. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that Sage and Noodles didn't reach out to this person for permission, especially since I also reached out and haven't heard back, and it doesn't look like they've been active in the past couple of years. So, color me skeptical about that. Y'all want to save folks like me the time of having to go down these particular rabbit holes by, citing your sources. Be appreciated. But in the meantime, I'm trying to enjoy the journey. So, I hope to be able to track this down myself. Anybody listening, if you know what this is, where it's from, and you want to help me out, please feel free. Happy to be corrected. But as soon as I get my hands on it, the Boruto directory or whatever, I'll upload the scans. I'll share them with people, and so hopefully we can put this to rest sooner rather than later. Anyway, the databooks to be written in that of the mere expression of a curator hired to make a compendium, or the Godspeak of the capital C creator of the whole series, is a very important distinction. Yeah, I really liked your article on that, so if you don't mind me shouting you out here, where is it? Legalistic argument. 1 second. I was trying to find your page because I wanted to show your the article that you wrote. I thought I had it bookmarked. Okay, I swear to God, Windows search is like the most useless thing. It has degraded so egregiously over the past few years. Here we go. There we go. So, everybody who's watching the stream, please consider checking out Acolyte's Emporium over here. Our good friend Dr. Strangle has made some really interesting, well thought out, well researched articles and put together some really great arguments about the Naruto series. This one in particular, legalistic argument against the guidebooks, is really, really good. And it kind of, like, I don't want to speak for you, Acolyte, if you want to jump in and provide some context for this, but basically, you know, this analysis of what it means to be an author in Japan and this sort of text, which we find in the databooks right here, right? Understanding what is actually being said here, what it means in cultural context and stuff is very important. And this is very different from, it's actually a good time to talk about this. It's very different from how the English one is formatted. So 1 second. So I also have copies of the third, well, all of the databooks, but here's the third one in Japanese, right? And if we look at the page back here, it's kind of the same deal. Sorry, it's a little tilted. You can kind of see the formatting. And I believe up here, this shows a reference to Caramel Mama, which is a like contractor outsource group that, from what I can tell, and from I think what Acolyte is arguing, they do a good amount of work in terms of the formatting, the setup of the pages. I mean, who knows? Kishimoto might write every single word himself. He might not. But there's definitely a whole fucking team of people who work on bringing these things to life. But this information doesn't show up in the English version. So here's the English version. Here's the one that you can actually get on Crunchyroll and stuff like that. And this is what the back looks like. So hopefully you can read this. It shows a translator. It shows the designer. A whole bunch of people on the design team. The lettering team, the consultant, the copy chief, but doesn't mention Caramel Mama, right? The formatting is a little bit different here. Now, unless these people over here are members of Caramel Mama, which I don't think they are, then there is a discrepancy in the way that the English and Japanese credits are formatted. Now, don't take my word as law on that, so to speak. Like, feel free to double check that. But even the books themselves, I mean, you can tell there's some differences, right? The English has all of this spiel about, you know, the intended purpose of the databooks or whatever, what's inside them, and the Japanese does not, and it's significantly smaller. It's formatted a bit differently. The front is mostly the same, but we do have the logo for Jump Comics on the front over there versus this one. So there are some regional differences that are interesting to note, to study. If you're interested in you know, publishing and how it differs between Japan and America. You might find that interesting, hopefully. So let's see. Databooks. Epsilon asks, Temari is just that goated and could actually blow Earth. I mean, like, I'm not going to try to, in the same way that I'm not going to argue with Kona on the Kushina agenda, I'm not going to get in the way of your Temari agenda. If you want to adopt that, that's totally fine. I'm not here to slander poor Temari. That affects how we should use the databooks. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you watch those videos on the intelligence stuff? Maybe on the basis of tactics, Naruto is superior, but Goku is superior in adaptability, says Shinigami. Yeah, that might be true. There might be more going on for the two of them, but I don't analyze Goku that deeply. I don't feel like giving Dragon Ball fans more tools to help them glaze. Yeah, I mean, like, Dragon Ball in general is a pretty, like, high-reaching series, right? So it's not... I'm trying to get the shining light out of your eyes there. It's not necessary to give them more fuel for the fire, so to speak. I mean, like, just being honest, I don't think that... I think that Madara probably has a good chance against Nappa and Vegeta, especially if he, you know, if Genjutsu works cross-verse. But once we get to the Frieza saga, I find it very difficult to believe that anybody um, in the Naruto universe really matches up against, like, certainly against Frieza and Super Saiyan Goku, but even like you know, lower forms of Frieza and some of the Ginyu Force. I think Captain Ginyu is clearing most of the Naruto universe with minimal difficulty, if anything. Again, fucking Genjutsu though, like Genjutsu is going to be a big deciding factor. But yeah, like Naruto, the Naruto universe doesn't scale very late into Dragon Ball, from my perspective. So I don't, we don't need to give them any more ammo. They're doing just fine. Um, Shinigami says, I don't analyze Goku that deeply. I don't feel like giving Dragon Ball fans. Yeah, oh yeah, you said that. Still waiting for the Shikamaru can outsmart Nier. Yeah. I don't know. I think, does Nier ever have like a specific um like IQ number that he's given in the comics? Not that IQ is everything, but I'm curious if he ever gets like a value, because Shikamaru supposedly is at 200. But again, like I don't want to get into the whole like whether or not IQ is a legitimate thing, but yeah, it at least would provide us something to talk about, right? You're not as concerned with AI as most people, but I don't want people to waste talent with AI. I messed around with AI before and it doesn't have as much soul as humans. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. Don't worry, not angry with the image being AI. It's your business. I feel like if I do, I would be hypocrite. That's fine. I just understand and I respect that people have different perspectives, different takes, and that it can affect people's livelihood. And so I understand and sympathize with having very passionate, very strong and firm takes on the subject in general. Like, I'm definitely not gonna object to that. Oh, cool. My my dog started playing with a rubber chicken in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Um, but yeah, let's see. Dr. Strangle says pulling out the physical book is really cool when working on a video. Yeah, that's a good point. They aren't like Yagami, that's fair. Yeah, the No True Scotsman thing might actually be a better analogy than calling it gaslighting. That might be like a more precise term. I'm pretty sure Sage isn't the one who did the scanning of the PDFs, and most of the old sites that had them have been taken down. That's fair, yeah. In that case, that's probably that does change my perspective on it a little bit. I still feel a little iffy about it, but you're right that if I don't know whether or not Sage or anybody else who's uploaded PDFs got permission from the original, if like they did the uploads themselves, and or if they got permission from the original uploaders to use them or give them credit or whatever. So I guess, you know, I guess you could say it's justified because it's just free information, but also benefit of the doubt and everything. I still feel a little weird about it, but I'll give that some more thought anyway. Um, Shinigami says, "Damn, working memory index feat for this guy or cognitive discipline." Oh shit, I'm sorry, I'm not sure which character you're referring to. Feel free to repeat it. Sorry to make you repeat yourself. Dr. Stango says, I find the summon part to be more convincing than resting on transpose, as we know how summoning works mechanically. Yeah, well, that's the thing, too, is that the specific phrasing... Let's see if I actually have it on my desktop, because I was looking at it earlier. The specific phrasing is that she can transpose dimensions of X, Y, or Z. Yeah, one second. This? Yeah, I think this was the original... this logo is from another person who used this translation, so this isn't the original creator. But this is the translation I think that gets thrown around a lot. Summoning multiple dimensions, she's able to dislocate different dimensions. Sage translates this as transpose, I think, such as magma, desert, and supergravity space. It's an extraordinary ability that allows her to follow and track down ninjas. Okay, so this is relatively similar to what we were talking about before. But I think it's important to understand that the term translocate, transpose, dislocate, whatever you want to use as that, however you want to interpret this word. I did input the actual Japanese, and the first definition that comes up is translocate, but I haven't looked into it any deeper than that, and I haven't, or sorry, not translocate, transpose. So the literal definition, or at least one valid literal definition according to like Jisho, is transpose. So take that as you will. I still want to get it like a commission or translation commissioned before I buy into that. But yeah, it seems to be at least partially accurate if you just go based on literal translation. Anyway, more to the point over here, able to dislocate different dimensions. So the dimensions that she's able to dislocate are specifically magma, desert, and supergravity space. This is talking about her ability to move her own dimensions around, right? Like, notice that the such as modifier is applied to three examples, and those three examples are her own spaces. I don't see how this leads to the conclusion that she can physically move the entire Naruto universe a universal distance away from itself into another universal space. That's a completely wild fucking leap. Um, and it seems much more clear to me that what is being expressed here is that she can move her own fucking dimensions around. And then we have, we can think about things in terms of the Kamui dimension and the Gamma Hyoro and all that stuff, and even like the Limbo clones. The Naruto universe has an ample precedent for distant dimensions being allowed to overlap or coexist in a similar space and sort of bleed into each other, even if they're not visible. Like Obito's midsection can be in Kamui, but also still connected to his body back in the real world, even though you can be looking right at him and not see his midsection if something's going through it, and also not see the Kamui dimension, right? So Naruto dimensions work in a really weird way that doesn't necessarily conform to whatever like hyper specific definitions we might want to use just by like plugging things into a dictionary. But even if we did, like, I think it's very important to notice that this that the transpose is modifying her dimensions. I don't really see any fucking evidence that she's transposing the Naruto universe. She's bringing her universe, her dimension, whatever you want to call it. She's bringing her root time space within access to the Naruto dimension. Then she's pulling herself and other people into it, and then she can swap freely between them within that space. Now, if you think though, like, if you think the thing's connected to her root time space, if you take her root time space and then you add that to all of her other time spaces, you want to look at that as a universe, and you feel like using that particular term, like Kaguya summons a universe. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue with you about that. I don't think it means it's a universe in power scaling terms, but if you want to use the term universe or parallel reality or whatever, that's fine. I think that we just need to be careful about like what not just plugging in literal definitions, but actually looking at the context and understanding like what parts of words are modifying other parts of the entries. Hopefully that sounds fair. Okay, let me finish catching up on chat. Legit doing an L or near Typhi. Well, that's very kind of you to say. I don't think I quite reached their levels, but I did want to at least try to contribute positively to the discussion. Oh yeah, hey Slimy Orb, how's it going? It's good to see you. I love that username. That's really cool. Yeah, you're getting the the narrative, the story that I'm sticking to is that this is my assistant, right? This is my lackey, my little Databook goblin who's doing my bidding, flipping through the books for me. My true bird form will always remain unrevealed. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But yeah, Shinigami says, I don't want to either with IQ numbers. In fact, I agree with Minoru, the character of the Death Note one-shot, where he says it only proves it wastes time playing those games on his phone or watches IQ videos on his phone. The people who are smart would be pushing for ideas for the future. Yeah, that makes sense too. And like, there's been a certain amount of controversy about like IQ and the bell curve and stuff like that, and I don't intrinsically believe that it is a legitimate way of measuring intelligence scores across cultures. I think if you control for certain variables, it can be useful in ascertaining intelligence in a particular way with a particular filter within a particular cultural context. But it's not a universally applicable, like, perfect system. Like it's not like purely objective math for analyzing any person's brain, right? It seems to me, based on my understanding, to evaluate performance within a certain cultural constraint. So you can use it, but like anything else, you have to use it correctly. Let's see. Dr. Strangle said the legal website I found almost straight up says that if people are working on a product that is based on my work that are on my behest, I can cut them from the credits and put my name on it. Interesting. Okay, yeah. So again, like, check out Dr. Strangle Acolyte's Epilogue's blog for that, and of course, feel free to continue to elaborate on that. I don't want to put words in your mouth or just like try to badly paraphrase your awesome work there. But I do appreciate you sharing that stuff, because I don't think it's myself included. I don't think it's the sort of thing that a lot of people really think about. And it's one of those, I guess you could call it like an unknown unknown, where like most of us are just not going to be aware of legalistic aspects of other cultures that we just like won't even think to consider when evaluating this stuff. So it's great that you're doing that genuinely. Let's see. Shinigami says, regardless, New Year and Part 2 of Death Note is stated to be the best of Whammy's House exams. And is Whammy's House, is that the, like the orphanage? And he also solves puzzles. Keep in mind, Whammy's House is an institute making use of your talents to either become the next L. Right, right. Okay, that makes sense. Hey, Michael, it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by. How's your weekend going? Shinigami says, Nier should eventually become as smart as L when he is an adult. It's unknown currently since he doesn't have many feats, but even being comparable to L is crazy. Yeah, as a kid, right? And then so he would have plenty of years to continue to develop his intelligence, and then compound that with life experience and training and stuff like that. So I feel like he'd probably be able to exceed L in the long term, but I'm not an expert there. The Slimy Orb says she can do... I fucking love that name. The Slimy Orb. I'm looking at the chat now, and I just love everybody's like creativity with the names, and the fact that we're having a remote discussion about manga literature, and like I am a literal bird talking to a god of death, a straw hat pirate, I believe, a sentient blob of slime, and a strangling physician, amongst many other lovely folks. And it's just, it's just, I love this weird community that we have. It's just, it's fucking great. I love you guys. Dr. Strangle says the definition for universe tier just says significantly affect. So by technicality, that's universal too. So it's a good point. And that's something that, if I do wind up debating Universal Naruto or whatever, I want to look into that more, because the whole point from my perspective of having tiering systems is that the tiers that we refer to, they're basically just like nicknames or shorthand terms to refer to amount of energy output, right? Like when we say a character is mountain level, we're saying that at minimum they can output X amount of energy, and we use this like hypothetical gold standard mountain to say, okay, it would take this amount of energy to destroy this mountain of this size and proportions or whatever. And so if a character can do that, then they're mountain level. But obviously, like, they can destroy any object of any, like, size or shape or whatever. It's the energy that is required. And maybe if we're talking about DC, I think the area that's affected as well might also play into it. It might have to actually expand over a certain radius. But these are all just, like, arbitrary terms that we're applying to help identify these brackets, right? So when it comes to universal, if we're trying to identify what is the minimum requirement for entering the bracket, how do you become universal, we would need to identify what the minimum amount of energy expenditure is to qualify for that tier. So we can identify a number that's associated with what it would take to destroy everything in the universe, and we could maybe argue that an act of creation would be comparable, because you have to create... I mean, like, I know people will disagree with this, it's totally fine, but like I could hear the argument that being able to create something means that you're injecting... Like, if you create a star, you are performing an action that leads to the same amount of energy existing in the universe as the star would output itself. Now, what I said might be completely wrong, but I could see somebody making that argument, and I think it makes a certain logical sense. Not to trigger anybody who knows more about it than I do. But significantly affect is such a vague term. It's so, like, undefined that I don't know how we would even put a numerical value to it, unless, and this is what I think VSBW says, like, they say that it's an umbrella term, right? Let me see if I can find this, actually. Yeah, I have this in my search history, what the fuck? I think it's in a discussion page. Okay, yeah, let me bring this over one sec. So, in the tiering system on VSBW versus BattlesWiki, the term significantly affect in reference to universal is here used as an umbrella term for feats that don't involve direct creation or destruction, but are comparable to them in power, such as warping or distorting the entirety of the structure in question, sustaining its existence with energy, merging the structure with another one, etc. So the point of a term like that is not to, like, let characters get away with lower tier feats on a technicality. Like, if I if I had a character who can like make a powerful enough vibration that it could cause everything in the universe to shake violently for a second or two, you could say that that's significantly affecting because like it is significant and it is an effect, right? Like it's debatable, but you could make that argument. But that doesn't actually give you anything useful in terms of data, in terms of how much energy was actually output. So I think VSBW are aware of that, and they use that term to basically be like, okay, well, if a character like took the entire universe and like compressed it into a ball and then re-expanded it or something like that, he didn't create it, he didn't destroy it, or they didn't create it or destroy it, but they did something that would still take energy on that level. So maybe this is what you were saying. I'm sorry if I wound up like throwing a rant at you, Dr. Strangle, when we already agree on this, because I'm pretty sure we do. um, but at the same time, I think, yeah, like, I kind of reject people saying, like, hey, look, I can argue that technically speaking, this is a significant effect. It's like, at the end of the day, the numbers are all that matters for this shit. Like, the actual, what is actually happening? And can you actually demonstrate that the character fits into the tier? Because that's why the fucking tiers are there in the first place. It's not to try and, like, again, like, let you off on a technicality. That's not, that's kind of like really stretching and bending the rules of the competition, or of the classification system. So it's kind of kind of frustrating. Well, let's see. Let me catch up on chat. Sorry. Comparable logical reasoning to Alan is stated in the BB murder case novel, says Shinigami. To have intelligence to surpass the 5 police bureaus and 7 intelligence agencies. Oh, damn. Okay, so yeah, he has enormous potential. And went to face against Light, his intelligence grew several notches. Yeah, so I feel like he's gonna outstrip L pretty quickly, if not like later in life for sure. The orb says Kaguya can take pocket dimensions of various sizes and summon them to where she is. Yeah, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the way it works is that she summons her root time space, and the root time space brings with it the other dimensions that are connected to it. But it could be that she summons one of her quote unquote subspaces, like the acid dimension or the fire dimension, and then that brings the root time space with it. I'm not sure, but yeah, your description is basically correct, I would think. Very off topic, but do you think that Obito can be caught in Genjutsu while he is phasing? I think so. But it's a very interesting question, because if the idea is that anything Obito comes into physical contact with or like affects his body from the outside, he would just phase through or pass through, then you could say, okay, well, like, if Naruto or Kakashi try to hit him with a Rasengan, right? The Rasengan is quote unquote just chakra, and the chakra will phase through him. So if you think of Genjutsu as, I am a Genjutsu user, I am now molding my chakra and now I'm projecting that chakra onto somebody else, well, you could argue that Obito's Kamui would detect, oh, we are getting a chakra invasion event happening, so I guess we better like phase. But that assumes that that's how that works, and I'm cool with that. I think it's a creative interpretation, but I don't know if because like if you presumably well, yeah, so here here's the thing. Obito can hear things, right, without having his ears phase into Kamui because they are encountering vibrations. So if Tayuya starts playing her flute, I would assume that he's probably just going to hear the notes, and then his brain is going to be like, oh, fuck, hallucination time, right? Because even though, like, the way that you perceive sound is that you're in a medium of air, right? Or something similar like water, and the molecules in the air or water are compressing and rarefacting, they're stretching and then, like, bunching up, and then that movement gets transferred into your eardrum, and then that goes through your whole, like, auditory system. So Obito is clearly affected by that, even while Kamui is on, because he can talk to other people. Photons are hitting his corneas and shit, right? So he is interacting with the outside world physically and mechanically. So I think he would probably be vulnerable to it, unless there's something about Kamui that's like, well, shit, these sound waves have chakra in them, I better start phasing. I don't think that would work, but it's a really, really cool idea, a really cool question. Michael says you want to commission someone to make a video on any particular battle. What would battle would be worth $100? Well, I don't know. I think $100 is pretty low for like a commissioned video, because you know, depending on the length of it, if it were like a 5-minute video, I think that would probably be okay. Or if it were like a short, that would be fine. But it's tough. It's tough to feel like I can put a fair value on stuff like that. I would definitely love to commission a video on like something like, I mean, this is so cliche, but like something like Gojo versus Kakashi, or one that I've wanted to do is like Sekiro versus Kakashi. I would like to hear other people's opinions on how like relatively low-end Naruto characters scale into other verses that I know a bit about but don't know all that much about. I somebody did a video on like which of the Souls series protagonists, including Bloodborne and Demon Souls and Sekiro, like presumably not not including Derasane, but which one of them has like the most impressive feats in terms of who they fight against, and that's an interesting topic. So it would probably be something like that. I would definitely prefer characters that are lower level, like that aren't necessarily super hyper powered. Like Dragon Ball would be way out of my realm of interest, for example, like Dragon Ball Z, and more like on the level of somebody like Part 1 Kakashi, because I would want to hear somebody talk about like the tactics and the mind games and the experience and just like everything, not just raw overwhelming power, right? Let's see. Oh, Saria comes in and swoops the lead. How do you do that? How does that system even work, dude? That's so weird. Congratulations on reclaiming your crown. Dr. Strangle said, I agree with your assessment of universe. I actually have a draft of a blog post I'm working on called Powerscaling's Prolific Polysemic Problem. That's a great fucking title, which is about exactly that. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I can't wait to see what you think about that. Michael says, really good weekend. Very glad to hear that. Which God of Death would I be, Bleach or Death Note or both? I honestly don't know. But I personally associate Shinigami with like either the Shinigami from like the quote unquote Grim Reaper from Naruto, or with like the Death Note Shinigami. That's what I personally think of. But however you identify with, that's that's totally fine. Slimy Orb says, for the person who's doing the intelligence tier list, where would Neuro the supernatural detective be since they canonically solved every mystery in Hell somehow? That would be a great question for Shinigami. I'm not familiar with that series, but or with like what the intelligence brackets for Hell are specifically. But yeah, that's a really interesting question. Shinigami, do you have thoughts on that? Oh no, yeah, the points battle has begun. Low universal and below is about energy. After that, it power scalings, misunderstandings of dimensional physics. Yeah, that's a major source of confusion, is people knowing just enough about physics to use certain terms in arguments, or even about astronomy or whatever, but not enough to really bring it home in terms of the argumentation. Let's see. Oh, you're gonna go back to editing your video. Oh, fuck yeah, you're working on a new video. That's awesome. Yeah, feel free to stop by whenever, but great. It's really great to hear that you're working on something new. I can't wait to see it. Good luck with everything. Michael says, I think creation feeds could inform AP if they're not true creation and more of a natural byproduct of DC feed. All Might's punches creating storm clouds. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think the purpose of using terminology like that is kind of to allow for there to be multiple different pathways for a character to participate in cross-verse fights. So like you don't like if somebody has a magical spell that requires a that can be evidenced to output a mountain level of energy output, but it's not something that you ever see that character blow something up, right? Like you see it. I don't know, like imagine a healing spell, right? That affects a large body of people, a large group of people, and you can do some sort of calc of like the amount of cellular energy or something that it would take to heal that number of people. Then you wouldn't want to exclude that character from the conversation entirely just because their mountain level feat was not an act of destruction, right? So I think the idea is to not be too stingy and to be open-ended with the way that people are allowed, quote-unquote, to participate in cross-verse discussions. To me, what... Oh, actually, hang on a second. You have mountain level backwards. It's mountain level is 100 megatons, which corresponds to a number of sizes of mountain depending on the level of destruction. Oh, okay. Well, that's the thing, right? Like 100 megatons. My point, I guess, is that there are so many different types of mountains of so many different shapes and sizes. Like, I think the smallest mountain in the world, like we looked it up at one point, it's like 45 feet tall or 45 meters tall. And then, of course, there's like Kilimanjaro and fucking Mount Everest and shit, right? Which are like part of mountain ranges, and they have multiple peaks leading to the tallest summit and shit like that. So obviously, like, my point is that they don't destroying one of those things doesn't necessarily make you mountain level, and destroying saying that somebody is only mountain level because their best feat is destroying Kilimanjaro might or Everest might actually be a downplay, right? At the end of the day, what it comes down to is the amount of energy output, and certainly they probably I I think it's reasonable to when creating tiers like that to try to look at like real world structures. Like a city block level is not an entirely arbitrary term, right? Like I'm assuming that the city blocks that they use for measurements are not hundreds of square miles in size. Now maybe there is a city out there that has a block that's 100 square miles in size. Highly doubt it. But even if we're talking about 10 square miles or 5 square miles, it's probably going to be based off of an average city block. But that being said, if you're talking about a fictional universe that has 1,000 mile city block, you wouldn't want to just like downplay your character and call them city block level because they quote unquote blew up a city block. You would want to actually understand the real dimensions of the attack. That's kind of the point that I'm making. But yeah, it seems reasonable that they use some kind of real world structure like planetary, like moon level. I think there's obviously bigger smaller moons, but don't they kind of use our moon Luna as a general like average tier entry point for moon level? I might be mistaken about that. How about No says it does actually shaking the observable universe is like it's like an exafo depending on how much shaking actually happens. Oh, first of all, hello, how about No? It's good to see you. Hope you are doing well. Not familiar with the term XFO. I'm guessing that's like an energy output feed. I'm skeptical of that. I don't personally see how shaking something is necessarily equivalent to the amount of energy it would be required to destroy that thing. The example I've been using lately, and like feel free to poke at this if you want, is if I have like two like steel bowling ball looking spheres, right? Like 10-pound spheres that are made of steel. The fact that I can pick them up and shake them and even throw them and move their locations, carry them around, doesn't mean, and I can accomplish those feats with my bare hands, doesn't mean that I, with my bare hands, can forge steel into balls, like rather than using a hammer and a forge. And it certainly doesn't mean I can vaporize them, right? So I I've done a little bit of research into like how much energy it would take to destroy a black hole. The consensus is they can't really be destroyed because they're just going to gobble up the input energy. But even if we assume that like, okay, we take the gravitational binding force of a black hole and we use overcoming that as like a hypothetical way of destroying it, or of getting us to universe tier, I don't know how you would calc how making a black hole vibrate would be equivalent to overcoming its binding energy in that way and ripping it apart. Or even just like take the sun, for example, right? Like, I can imagine some sort of hypothetical alien weapon that was powerful enough to send ripples across the sun. Now, that doesn't mean it's gonna like rip it apart, right? So to me anyway, it's a question of magnitude and context. Maybe I'm yes, a JoJo's reference. Everything is a fucking JoJo's reference, that included. So yeah. I mean, just leave it there. JoJo scales to nah. I'm JoJo. I'm sure has crazy scaling with stuff like Zawarudo and Road Roller and like all of the stuff that comes up in that series. But mostly I just know the memes as I just self-reported on. Okay, so I'm gonna read through chat real quick, and then we should get started on the Databook reading. So I'll run to the bathroom, then we can get started on that. Slimy Orb says, "I feel like you would like Hunter x Hunter." I did actually start reading it, and I think I got 3 issues in or chapters in. And I was like, "Oh, this is really good." So I want to get back to that and follow up on that for sure. We accept these equivocations and not others about VSBW in the same way they equivocate destroying and creating. That's fair. I mean, ultimately, this is like the whole point of all this stuff is to create rules to allow for fair competition and interesting discussion. So, makes sense that they would want to keep those stipulations open, so to speak. Shinigami says, by narrative alone, L can do a lot of things Near Mello can do, and is portrayed as once in a lifetime. Lots of the novels claim Near Mello are the closest to L, even BB, who has some insane feats, but they also state in the novels how Mello feels like L gets further away like a mirage. Interesting, yeah. I don't honestly know much about the extended universe, so to speak, of Death Note, but I'll take your word for it. It sounds really cool. I see you guys are talking about Supernatural Detective. If you like bird demons, are you familiar with Tzeentch from Warhammer? I actually have a Warhammer book right here on my desk for unrelated reasons, but I'm planning on starting this soon. Thanquol and Bone Ripper. I really love the Skaven, so I'm like super excited to learn more about this character. Thanquol's probably my favorite like Warhammer character. So yeah, curious. I think you'd like Tzeentch because he's like well, not Tzeentch himself. Kairos Fate Weaver is like this legendary lord within the Tzeentchian pantheon, for lack of a better term. And he's like this. Let's see if I can find a picture actually. He's like this demonic birdman who has one eye, or one, like two heads, and one of its heads can only see the past, and one of them can only see the future, so he can never actually look at the present. Funny enough, just kind of a cool little detail. You can play as him in Total War Warhammer 3, which I have an embarrassing amount of hours in. But yeah, you probably like this guy. Tzeentch's whole, like, as a faction in the lore, it's all about like deception and trickery and manipulation and change and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely a very cerebral, very manipulative faction, if that makes sense. Speed of the destruction is important for power scaling. Yet that makes sense too. Fun fact relating this mountain level was a VSB addition to the OBD's own tiering system. What's OBD? That was rather controversial at the time because what constitutes a standard mountain or whatever. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. They took the average size of a Manhattan block. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So that it makes absolute sense to use a like some sort of real world parallel for a for a starting point, but then also understanding that like different universes, different fictional realms or whatever are going to potentially have different definitions of that sort of thing. My favorite example, which I'm sure you've heard me use ad nauseum at this point, is Kame House Island. Destroying Kame House Island doesn't make you island level just because it's an island, right? But that doesn't mean that like the energy output that people are using couldn't be based on some actual islands. Hopefully that seems fair. Let's see. Foes engineering to destroy one solar system. Oh, cool. Okay, gotcha. 41 ergs are like 10 to the 44th power joules. Nice, nice. To be clear, not what I'm saying shaking or moving the universe requires X energy. Not doing that doing so is inherently universal. Oh, okay. Sorry, I think I misunderstood your point. So thank you for clarifying that. I want to show how smart CTWL is. I can't remember what that refers to. I'm sorry. There's Xatu from Pokemon. Context for this, Xatu can see into the past and the future with one eye each. Yeah, that's kind of the same thing, right? Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for the chat. Obviously, we can keep the conversation going, but I'm gonna take a like 2-minute break, and then come back and we can start getting into the data book reading. And I'll leave a timestamp too for people watching the VOD back if they want to just like skip to the discussion. So give me 2 minutes. I will go back to the lovely intro animation, and then I will be back in just a moment. Oh, change the world. Cool. Yeah, be right back. Okay. Thank you for your patience. I'll be resuming in just a second. I think everything is set up okay. Soundtrack back. Let's back this up a little bit. Here. Okay. 1 sec. I'll be starting momentarily. Hey, hey. Good to see you're still here, Shinigami. Okay. Yeah. For people who are skipping to this part in the VOD, we will now be reading through the first Naruto databook on Narutoversity. This is a fan translation that was provided as a way of letting people have easier access to the first Naruto databook, since there is no official English translation. I also have a copy here of the Japanese. If you are interested in picking up one yourself, this is the official jacket copy to look for. And we will be flipping through and trying to basically get a sense of, moving stuff around here a little bit, get a sense of, you know, any given statement. Let's take a look together at how that statement is represented in the translation, as well as how it appears in the actual formatted official version, so that you guys have context for any missing translations or images or anything like that that might not be present in the book. I'm just arranging my windows a little bit differently so that I can read off the same page here, so bear with me for 1 second. Almost ready to get started. An hour fucking 19 minutes later, we're ready to get started. Typical John stream shenanigans. Let's see. Did I lose your chat? Where'd you guys go? Oh, there we are. It's just the streamer bots being weird. Okay. So, yeah, that being said, let's dive right in. So we're going to start from the beginning, naturally. One thing that the databooks themselves don't actually include is, or the translation doesn't include, is the preamble. So we already kind of went over some of this before, but basically you have your beautiful, vividly colored artwork over here, some intro pages, very, very beautiful stuff. And then we also have this picture of Naruto over here. So Naruto best scene. Oh yeah, so I think these were the scenes that were voted as favorites from within the community, and then they were given like full illustrations and stuff like that. Michael says, what's going to be the least frustrating databook set when we encounter? Actually, like, I'd love to give you a silly answer, like, something about Itachi or Kisame or something like that being invincible and impossible to evade. But honestly, a lot of them are pretty normal. Like, this first one for Yoroi over here, here's a quote from him, but then the first actual, like, banner text, like the first proper text that we see, is an uncommon power, he absorbs chakra, which is like fine, right? There's nothing that I can tell is wrong with that. Yoroi is this guy over here, who you'll remember from the tuning exams. This dude on the left, up here, and he fights Sasuke. You can see him grabbing onto Sasuke's head. This is in like the like after the force to death, right? And this just describes like how his jutsu works. This is pretty straightforward. He absorbs chakra. That is an uncommon power, right? And then underneath here we have Akamaru's entry. And can't tell you exactly what it says, but it seems like it's just describing how he turns red and fights with Kiba. And we can see the shadings a little bit different there. Like turning red, fighting with Kiba. Actually wonder if I bring this over here. I'm trying to improve my setup so that I can make sure I'm watching the window. Okay. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. Yeah, so let's start reading this together. Maybe I can do this to help keep it open. Start reading this together, and what I want to remind people to keep a lookout for is, like, we're probably going to come across a bunch of different statements that we have implicit natural reactions to. Like I said, I saw this and I was like, oh, I don't see any problem with that. That seems dry and literal. I think I'll just accept that as being true. Okay, well, why? Why am I willing to do that? Really what I'm doing when I come to that conclusion is I'm comparing that statement with my knowledge of the series itself. And what I remember from that scene, and we can actually see that here, is that this that based on my knowledge of the series, what I remember, chakra absorption is a pretty rare ability, and so uncommon works, and absorption is just a description of what's happening. So that is an accurate reflection of what's happening, and I know that not just intuitively, but because I can recall what happened during that fight and can go back and look it up, and we can actually see the reference images to what's being described, and we can see if those images, like, if we're actually getting like a one-to-one representation of the content. So, that being said, let's keep going. Otogakure Spy, disguised as Konohagakure Ninja, specialist in melee combat, he uses his power to steal the opponent's chakra and make them unable to fight. So, let's talk about this statement in and of itself. Like, should we use this for power scaling? Well, what actually happens in the fight with Yoroi versus Sasuke? Yoroi does manage to grab Sasuke, as you can clearly see by his expression over here. He grabs onto his face, he puts him in a disadvantageous position, winds up draining some energy for him. So it may indeed be accurate and true to say that the ability renders the enemy incapable of fighting. But that doesn't mean that he necessarily has universal AP, right? Because at the end of the day, Sasuke does win that fight. He's temporarily unable to engage, perhaps. But if you were to take this statement and be like, okay, well, this is an official source, it's telling us that this character's ability makes him win against opponents, and therefore he has universal AP. Obviously, that would be ridiculous, right? And it's not just because it's obviously ridiculous inherently, it's because it doesn't match with what we see. So, let's keep going. Rank-wise, he's Kabuto's superior, but since he hasn't done great feats, he feels rather apprehensive. The frightening chakra absorption technique is Yoroi's special ability. He captured Sasuke and stole his energy. Okay, well, he temporarily restrained him, right? So, this statement in and of itself, and this is the very first, entry, really, that we have in the databooks overall, describing a character's abilities or feats, whatever. This entry contains a mixture of different types of language. Some of it is very straightforward and literally describes what's happening. Some of it still basically describes what's happening just fine, but it also contains phrases like this that if you interpret them out of context, you can see how something like this could be twisted to try to make the argument that this character can beat anybody, right? Now, what we have to be careful of and mindful of and just curious about is how do we tell the difference fairly between those different things, right? So, not gonna come to any conclusions just yet. Let's just keep that in mind as we go. Dr. Strangle says, John, did you read my response blog to Sage's video? Yeah, that's the one that you asked me about the reference in Discord, right? I did initially scan through it. I think when you first sent it, I was I didn't give it the full attention it deserved because I was in work brain, fried brain mode. So feel free to remind me. I want to make sure that I read through it again with a calm brain. But from what I saw initially, I was, obviously in agreement with you. And I will be happy to give it another read through. Feel free to poke me again if I don't get back to you in a couple days. Slimy Orb says, oh no, I just thought the dumb joke. Yoroi Sasuke's power plus his own. He's Yoroi 11 to internet cookies if you get the reference. I don't, but I will say, if you're, well, no, never mind. I was gonna try and riff on it, but I couldn't find an adequate meme to Uno reverse you there, so I'll just let you take the W there. I actually don't, Shinigami, if you want to share about L's feats, feel free, but I'm probably not going to focus on that too much because I'm going to keep the focus on the Databook stuff for now. As a Databook reader who has only read the Databook, it doesn't make sense that Sasuke could win a fight against Yoroi is unable to fight his little... No, yeah, it is, right? So, basically, Kishimoto is correcting himself. I mean, he went through the trouble to add this after the fact, right? He wrote this himself after the series. Sorry, I'm being a little bitch, but, yeah, he went through the trouble to make sure that we understood that Yoroi's ability, can't be avoided or defeated, or not, that it categorically, makes people unable to fight. So, sorry, Madara, but get dunked on. It's Yoroi will make you unable to fight. Sorry, there's nothing you can do. So Akamaru's entry was untranslated. If folks want me to upload that scan, I can. I've also, feel free to use any of the... If you want to pause this video and like use any of the Japanese text for your translations or anything like that, you hereby have my permission to do so. Just please make sure to reference the exact page that you got it from and the exact data book that you got it from. And I'll try to move the camera a little bit so you can see the actual page numbers. I don't. I didn't make this book myself, so you're not like stealing my work. But if you're going to use this as a reference, please make it accessible to other people so that they can fact check and learn themselves. That's my only request. Okay, so yeah, by the way, not to skim over this stuff, let's look at the data type data that's actually been being shown about Choji. So Choji's in Konoha, sure, he's a Genin. Here's his registration number. I have no idea if these are accurate or whatever. I assume that they are because I don't bother checking, basically. And I think they are consistent throughout the data books. Like, we could look, let's take a look at his entry in the third data book, because I have it here. And it's in English, so it's easy to check. Character profiles, and he should be at the start too, because it's Akimichi. Yeah, so how can I do this? Bring this over here. Ninja registry number 012625012625. Yeah, so like one of the things you can do if you want to try to fact check the data books is just like see if the data is consistent between them. You know, if they're internally and if they're consistent between each other as well as internally consistent. That's one thing that's definitely worth doing. I don't know. I'm guessing that Kishimoto and his team have a directory of this somewhere. Maybe this is the first time this was introduced. But anyway, his weight, his height, these are things that, again, I don't personally feel like disputing, but you absolutely could, right? You don't need to take any of this stuff as gospel, because if you wanted to confirm that Choji is actually 150 centimeters tall, you could go in, you can measure his apparent appearance and try to find like other characters and see if you could get like their heights and do like an analysis of it. You don't have to take this at face value. But yeah, you're also totally welcome to as well. Stuff like blood type, I don't even know how you would verify that. So it's like, I don't personally care to debate about that. But yeah, like some of this stuff is also tongue-in-cheek, right? Least favorite food, inedible things. Like, of course, like he wouldn't like something that you couldn't eat. Would like to fight when out of food. Anyone is okay. Here's the thing. I don't think this is true. I don't think that it would be in character for Choji to want to fight like his mom, or like in an actual like no holds barred fist fight, or even Shikamaru, just because he's hungry. Right? I don't think that's happening. So you have to understand that some of this stuff is a little jokey, some of this stuff is a little tongue-in-cheek, right? I don't know if his favorite word actually meat, or is this meant to be a joke? Does he's not like Darui or whatever, he says meat all the goddamn time, right? Is he easygoing? Does that actually suit his character? I mean, like, you see how quickly he can fly into a rage when provoked. Maybe he's easygoing by nature, but is that really like how we see him act most of the time? He's quite he can get very pumped up. I mean, you can see over here, right, that he's like doing the whole I forget what he says exactly, but he's like, I'm pleasantly plump or whatever. He gets very fired up very quickly. He's also a very like emotional person, as you can see there. Whole range of emotions. So I don't know. I don't know if he's easygoing in the way that Shikamaru is going. Easygoing. Here are some facts and figures, so to speak. Again, I don't know how we would double check these. I am totally fine just accepting that Choji did 6 D rank missions and 2 C rank missions. I don't really care one way or another, but you could try to find a way to dispute that within the series. I don't know why this is being advertised to us, but whatever. One of the interesting things about Databook 1 that doesn't really show up in the other databooks, I don't think. Let me check the third one again. Yeah, so I would have to check the second one, which I have on the shelf, which I can, the second and fourth ones. But like the values wind up getting represented a bit differently in the third databooks. Like, you don't have the term luck doesn't show up anymore, and the term latent potential doesn't show up either. So it's interesting. Those terms are defined, like, I don't have the translation, unfortunately, but like over here we do get a breakdown of what that stuff means. I think latent potential might show up in one of the other databooks as well, right? But yeah, it's interesting that some more esoteric terms get used in the first databook, like latent potential and luck and stuff like that, right? When using his clan's many secrets, he can be expected to fight better than his fucking window. There we go. Than his data suggests. So that's interesting. We shouldn't necessarily take the numbers as gospel either, because there might be circumstances that affect a character's abilities beyond just what the numbers say. When Fuza stakes' ability goes up drastically, I am not fat, yeah. The successor of the Akamichi clan's Hope Chubby Style, a chubby style ninja born into the traditional family lineage of the Akamichi clan. Although his body shape doesn't look much like that of a ninja at first glance, he splendidly graduated from the academy. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with this in terms of like factual accuracy or whatever, but notice the term splendidly being used here. One of the things that folks like Sage like to suggest is that the databooks themselves count as what he refers to as an inherently, or by its nature, an expository reference text. And he references this Grammarly article, which, as far as I know, he's never actually provided a source for, but whatever, I've complained about that enough. And the Grammarly article lays out rules that you should adhere to if you're writing expository text. Examples of expository text include a variety of different things, but some like key examples are writing a scientific publication, or writing a news article, or writing an entry in an encyclopedia, which this has the databooks have a similar appearance to an encyclopedia. So you can see where the comparison comes from. However, one of the things that the author Lindsay Kramer of that Grammarly article says, that Sage likes to quote, is that you can use some figurative language in an expository text. In other words, using the occasional bit of like a joke here or there or whatever doesn't mean that you then get demoted from being an expository text to not being an expository text. But the phrase that they like to use is, "It won't be a party on the page." It's just so annoying, but whatever. It won't be a party on the page. What that means is that if you essentially use too much metaphor, hyperbole, jokes, and figurative language, then you transition away from being an expository text to no longer counting as an expository text. Imagine if, like, I published a scientific paper on lasers. I think I used this analogy before, right? Where, like, my paper says, okay, this is the laser that I did this study on. I used this type of gas. I used this type of energy input, exciter or whatever. And this was the speed of amplification. These were how the molecules worked or whatever, right? This was the wavelength and the beam and the aperture and the mirrors I used, right? And then I said, man, in the scientific paper, I was like, these fucking bomb-ass cool lasers will totally rock your dick off, right? Like, they would probably get demoted, like, or get rejected from a peer review board, right? Even one sentence like that in an official publication, they would be like, this is inappropriate, you have to retract this. Something that I might say that I could get away with and it would still be expository is be like, in this researcher's opinion, based on my findings so far, this has thrilling and extremely exciting repercussions and implications for the future of science. And I think that, we should be champing at the bit to learn more. Okay? I'm being very clear that I'm inserting my own opinion, and I'm trying to, like, persuade the review board to, like, I don't know, give me funding or whatever else, right? So there are ways in which you can utilize figurative, non-literal, non-scientific language, even within scientific publications, to enhance the delivery of your message, and it doesn't, like, detract from your work being expository in nature. However, there are very clear limits, and you only get a couple of those. If you use more than a couple, like, you will get rejected. And I know this because I published scientific papers. Not a lot, but I did some research when I was in college, and I worked in a research lab as well. And it's like, there are very strict rules for a lot of this stuff. So our question is, if we are going to regard this text as inherently expository, how many of those do they get? Like, how much freedom to use expository language does the textbook get before it gets disqualified, so to speak? And within the context of the expository stuff that I've worked on anyway, the term splendid is inappropriate, right? Splendid is not something that is a precise, dry, literal piece of exposition. Splendid is an opinion. Splendid is descriptive language. So this actually counts as one of the things contributing to a party on the page. So I don't know, shitty analogy, but, like, this counts as one red Solo cup on the table. One red Solo cup on the table does not a party make, but things are the more we see of these, the more and more it starts to look like a party. At what point is it actually a party, right? Let's just ask ourselves that question. Let me finish this entry, and then I'll get back to chat. He doesn't just have chubby style, he has a well-liked chubby style that even gets girls to care for him. I don't think this is true at all, based on what I remember from the manga. I think that this is coming from Choji's perspective, right? So understand that the Databook narrator might also sort of be playfully describing things from the perspective of characters diegetically, even though it seems to be like Kishimoto's word of God coming towards us or being delivered to us as the audience. This also seems like it's kind of something that Choji would say, right? Asuma makes him do his best using Korean barbecue as bait. Choji is at his best when fishing for food. Okay, so the fishing thing and the use of the term bait, that would be figurative language. He's not literally using a fishing line, right? Now, obviously, that is not in negation of what happens in the series. This is an accurate description, but the language being used is expressive rather than dry and literal. Taboo word. With the word fatty as the trigger, the inner Choji is awakened. The fighting strength of the raging Choji is unknown. Okay, so that all seems totally fine. Okay, before we get to Shino, let me turn the page. You can see the Japanese equivalent over here. But as you can see, like, Naruto Versity does actually have full scans that have all of the data and everything as well. It's a shame that they never finished the project, so to speak, but you can tell, by the way, like, I'm going to sometimes dispute the language, the accuracy, the translations, or whatever of Naruto Versity. Let's give these motherfuckers some credit for how much work was done to not just upload these things, but also to, like, letter them and format them and get everything looking nice and crisp. I mean, like, this was a fucking project, right? And we've all just been benefiting off of this for free for years and years. As far as I know, they haven't earned a dime off of any of this stuff, although, I don't know, maybe they take donations. I don't really know, to be honest. But still, let's show some appreciation for these folks and their hard work. Let me take a drink, and then we can catch up on chat. Okay, I think the unable to fight is the goal of the absorption, not that it's unstoppable. It's why he does it, says the slimy orb. Yes, exactly. I would agree with your interpretation, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because I can just hear somebody trying to make the argument. Because I mean, like, that's basically what people do, like Noodles did for the Itachi debate, right? He emphasized over and over again, it says that the Totsuka blade can cut down any enemy. It says that the Yatamira can block any attack. And that's just one example. And hey, maybe you think Itachi solo is the first. I don't fucking, like, I'm not gonna argue with you about that. Using the general you here. But what I will say is that if you take that kind of statement literally, and you start adopting that habit throughout the databooks of just being like, oh yeah, let's just take everything at face value, it can lead to some really wild conclusions. So it's at the very what's my train of thought? At the very best, it is risky. That's what I wanted to say. Any dunk on Madara is a W. Yeah, Madara loses to Yoroi. That's my final verdict, and I will not be taking questions. Let me Orb says, my favorite like to fight section is Jugo. It's so accurate. Oh yeah, I'm curious about that. I'm sure we'll get to it soon. See, or actually we might not get to that for a little bit, so if you want to quote it, feel free. One of the pages of the Databook shows the Konoha 12 lined up with a ruler showing height. That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. And that can be a very useful reference point. How about No says splendidly isn't in the Japanese, as far as I can tell, just successfully. Yeah, there's a certain amount. So that's also an interesting conversation about, like, how do people make the decisions to localize certain things. And I will say that, like, I don't think that a localization difference is necessarily a mistranslation, but it absolutely can be, right? So I've been watching, like, going back and rewatching fucking Full Metal Alchemist, and kind of like I was talking about JJK a couple of weeks ago, like, looking at the subtitles, I know enough Japanese that I know that the subtitles don't always match up with what's on screen. I think, like, there was one point where Edward called somebody else an idiot, or, like, said, like, you're fucking lying about that. Like, it was something, like, pretty aggressive. And then the subtitles just said, State Alchemist, my foot. right? So obviously the word foot does not appear in the Japanese original, but the expression "my foot" is a reasonable, albeit somewhat toned down, a reasonable localization of "you're full of shit." It would have been better if they said "you're full of shit," but even that, like the specific phrasing of "you are a container that is completely replete with feces," that is not what was in the Japanese. That doesn't mean that it was a mistranslation, though, right? So, like, going back to the whole clone Hashirama Tobirama thing, the fact that reabsorb appears in the English and it doesn't appear in the Japanese is worth noting, and it might have changed the context, so we should be careful about that stuff. But it also doesn't mean that it's inherently invalid because the language is a little off or whatever. Let me try and frame this up a little bit better. There we go. Okay. Dunking on Madara's not a W. Oh, we got a Madara fan. I don't know. I think it's satisfying because the Uchiha gets so much glaze. I mean, like, they're so beloved. My best, I don't like to phrase it this way, but the best performing, if you think of performance in terms of views, my highest viewed live stream by a significant margin was the one that happened to have Itachi looking like a badass on the cover. I didn't even really talk about Itachi all that much. It was a I think it's like the Conan versus Data discussion. So Itachi was barely even mentioned, but like if you wanna if you wanna get views, I guess put a fucking Uchiha on the cover because that's what people like, you know. Although my second most viewed one was a picture of a mud wall, but technically Obito was coming out of it, so yeah, which they are loved, and so getting knocked down a peg I think is satisfying. I don't have anything against the guy personally, but I can empathize with that sensation. But I do appreciate you sharing the translation of the original text. How about no, for sure. The double layer of translation caused a mix-up. Yeah, that's fair. Imagine if you showed these things to Sage, he would get caught in a dissonance. So I would like to. I reached out to Sage. I offered some potential times for us to have a conversation. He seemed willing to do that, and then he didn't follow up, which is like whatever. People have lives. I'm not mad about it, or it's under no obligation. But I also don't necessarily want to keep playing Discord tag and be like, hey, you're free today, hey, you're free today, hey. Like, it's kind of weird to do that. So, ball's in his court as far as I'm concerned. I am happy to have a talk at some point, and I'm happy to go over all of this stuff. But also, I'm not just gonna, like, wait around for it to magically happen. I thought about leaving some more comments, but, like, the comment section just doesn't really seem to be a good place to have a productive dialogue. It hasn't really gone anywhere. If you've seen the comments I've left and the aftermath of that, it's not productive, clearly. So we'll see. I would absolutely be happy to bring all of this stuff up. I would be happy to volunteer my time to help people understand this stuff. It's what I'm here for. It's what I want to do. But it's not just a one-way street, you know. It has to require somebody who's willing to listen. So we'll see. Slimy Orb says, I'm just imagining random walking up to every character in the Databook being like, hey, I'm doing a thing. What do you describe yourself as? Yeah, that might be it. I mean, like, if you do see these as, like, diegetic, tongue-in-cheek Ninja Invoke cards, then yeah, that might actually work. Slimy says, I remember Juko's like to fight no one, normally everyone transform. Yeah, that's perfect. Shinigami says, just hate Madara about as much as Ayano Koji. I don't know that character. Conan versus Data with hints of Itachi. Yeah, just a little shred of Itachi on top for spice, for garnish. Oh, you gotta go. Oh, it's 3 a.m. Yeah, dude, get some sleep. Take care. I'm always happy to chat later. Let me know if you have any additional thoughts at a later point. But yeah, hope you get some good sleep. Take care. How about No says, additional note, the care for him is actually specifically he gets visited when he's sick, hospitalized. Oh, that's true. But I don't think it's necessarily the... Oh, you're just trying to harvest some more points. Fair. I think she has such a long-standing reign on this channel. With Dr. Strangle actually just took the crown, so you got more competition coming your way. But yeah, that's right. He does get visited in the hospital, but I also think that's more about his... like what he offered, like the sacrifice that he offered, as opposed to he is so chubby that his chubbiness is what gets girls to care for him. I don't think that's quite accurate. That sounds like more of like Choji self-glazing. No intelligence questions for now, but I appreciate you making the offer to talk about it as always. Hope you have a good night. Okay, so let's see for Shino over here. You should always have a trump card, just like the parasitic destruction insects that hide inside him. His true power is wrapped by a secret veil. That is arguably somewhat metaphorical language, in that like you could argue that his garment here, like his jacket or whatever, is the veil, but a veil is a specific type of garment as well. So this to me is not meant to be taken literally. It's another example of like figurative language. A contract with insects passed down from ancient times, the descendant of a clan that transmits strange-looking secret technique. Strange-looking is not inaccurate, but it's not exactly precise either. But whatever, it's not a big deal. The descendants of the Aburame clan are predestined to live in symbiosis with insects from the moment they come into this world. So this would be an interesting opportunity to talk to somebody who knows the native Japanese, because I think that, yeah, that Saladin Bolts, when she was talking about the Boruto translations, 1 second. I want to go to her Momoshiki thing that we talked about before and go to Fate. Okay. So yeah. So there's this line in the Momoshiki novel that describes him as so by the way, this is like Saladin Bolt's amazing fucking translation. That she yeah, they're factually strange. Yes, that is literal. They are factually strange. They actually are kind of strange, but maybe not to Shino, not from his perspective, right? Yeah, so this is Saladin Bolt's amazing blog. Go check her out at culturalcontext.6.wordpress.com. She does amazing translations of Boruto stuff, and she did this commission translation for me for the Boruto movie novelization for certain sections. So there was this there's this moment where Kinshiki gets absorbed by Momoshiki, and then Momoshiki has this line where it says he had now definitely become an Oni. That was the fate of their kind, or something like that, or like and the term that they use is sadame, right? Pronouncing that wrong, but like yes, if you're familiar with JoJo, you'll probably recognize that term. But the specific word sadame actually has a very specific meaning that is something that's preordained. So I won't like read all this out loud, but please do check out this blog if you're interested in learning more about the context behind that. I'm looking at the text right now and I don't see that phrase sadame written there, but it's worth considering whether when the phrase like fate or whatever is used, or like predestined, right? Is the destiny that they're talking about something that they consider to be like written in the stars, like a cosmic destiny, or is it more like the fate, the rule set, the what's been ordained as part of the legacy of the clan? Yeah, everything is a JoJo reference, and even you know. Well, the thing is, even saying this is a JoJo reference is in and of itself a JoJo reference. It's like the JoJo references have transcended and folded in on themselves at this point. But yeah, you can't get away from it, but that's no problem. But yeah, so like it's worth considering that even little words like that might seem simple or throwaway or whatever, may also have a lot of cultural context that we're just not getting as non-native speakers or not like expert speakers or whatever. So worth considering. Unlike Kiba, who's a man of action, Shino finds good companions in taciturn people, and his actions don't stand out much like Hinata. However, on the contrary, his silence makes an odd atmosphere hang in the air, and he gives off an eerie presence. Now, he's still in the position of gaining, but his strategy of leading his opponents to defeat, keeping his trump card... What the fuck? This is formatted weirdly. Now, he's still in the position of gaining, but his strategy of leading his opponents to defeat, keeping his trump cards hidden, and his heartless, although collected personality that makes him able to put it into practice, give completely the impression that his ability is that of a chunin. He doesn't realize it himself, but he's got a disposition as a leader that leads his team. A leader that leads his team is kind of funny. An eerie and reliable presence, that's Aburame Shino's personality. Okay, so overall, that's a pretty accurate and fair description of the character. However, we should be careful about taking certain things hyper-literally, right? Obviously, I hope I don't have to explain this to anybody, But the term, actually, let me not be so condescending about it, because if you're not a native English speaker, you might not know that the term heartless doesn't literally refer to not having a heart in your body. If you don't know anything, if you're not like, as privy on the language that you're reading, and you wind up looking at this page and you see this character who is full of bugs, it actually wouldn't be insane to think, oh, maybe he literally doesn't have a heart, if you're not familiar with the fact that the term heartless in English is an idiom that means, like, cold and unempathetic and unfeeling and callous and stuff, right? So this is why we have to be careful, especially if we're reading from Japanese and we're not native or like expert Japanese speakers. There's always a possibility that there could be words like that if we interpret them too literally, we totally miss the fucking point. Chino does have a heart. Like, we see his chakra network through like the X-ray vision at one point. He has a regular human body. It's just got little critters in it. Also, I don't know if we should take that literally, that he is totally heartless. I think it's probably more accurate to say that he is heartless within the context of combat. When he's fighting with other people, he can kill his emotions or not display emotions in order to eliminate others, right? And we do see him being pretty brutal at times. But does that mean that he can't show empathy or love or care? I mean, like, he values his friends, right? I don't think he's universally heartless. No worries, Michael. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight. Hope you have a great night. Heartless is Kingdom Hearts, things made from the darkness in one's heart. Yeah, so, like, again, Kingdom Hearts shared universe confirmed, right? I don't think so. Anyway, let's see. He gave his advice, but nevertheless, his efforts don't slow down. He's thoroughly calm. That's fair. An eerie snare hidden by his lack of expressions. Okay, so he's not literally a snare. Snare meaning a trap as opposed to like a snare drum, right? Anyway, moving on to this thing over here. There was actually a couple interesting things I found here. So let's flip over so you can see the page. But this is a pretty one-to-one page, just like the Shino page as well, right? So, but right off the bat, this fucking dude who dies to Gaara in part 1, there's no way to escape from the Rain of Needles. So we have found our first very clearly hyperbolic statement. When I say very clearly, I don't mean that like there's anything about it itself that says, like, waves its hand at us and says, hey, look at me, I'm a hyperbole, just so you know. We know that this is not the case because we can compare it to what actually happens in that fight versus Gaara. Gaara does manage to escape in one sense of the word, and also somebody like Minato or any other character like Obito who has like any kind of movement feat that would just get him out of the way in time would be able to escape from it. So you don't even need to have like a crazy defense. Gaara happens to, but the idea that there's no way to escape from it is just kind of absurd when you think about all of the different movement verbs and abilities and counters and stuff like that the characters in the series have, right? So when we say this is clearly hyperbolic or figurative, it's clear because we're doing the analysis and comparison. Let's see. The elite that Amegakure sent to Konoha to increase its dignity. Just after the second stage of the Chunin exams began, he ran across Gaara in the Forest of Death. Even if he resisted unleashing his characteristic certain killing technique, again, like certain killing technique, should we take that as him having universal AP? Obviously fucking not, right? Like, in addition to just not killing Gaara with this technique, we should be willing to allow for the possibility that this is referring to the idealized or intended use of the jutsu. So, like, most of the time he kills most of his opponents. Like, you figure he probably has a decent kill count, being an experienced shinobi and being, like, sent for this important mission. So yeah, it's sort of a tautology where it's like, this ability is certain to kill the sorts of people that this ability will kill certainly. You know what I mean? But this is going to establish the context of the databooks as being filled with statements like these. Even if he resisted unleashing his character, blah, 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 before the evident discrepancy of their true power, he became a sacrifice of the sand together with his comrades. Okay, so Gaara, you could regard what Gaara does as like sacrificing him to his mother spirit or whatever, feeding the blood to the demon. The sad and gloomy powerful person of the rain. Talking now about Bayu. He turns close combat, in which he makes the best use of his small stature, crawling under the opponent's breast pocket into his strong point. Okay, again, like, there's some context there, right? Crawling under the breast pocket. In addition to just the translation potentially being a little colorful or interpretive, or like a loosened interpretation, that doesn't mean that this motherfucker just always crawls around on the ground like a goddamn snake, right? It's a turn of phrase. He has a stout arm that can't be guessed from its outward appearance. Okay, are we sure? Are we certain that there's no possibility of the strength of his arm being ascertained by an outside observer? And right after he grabbed the opponent, he just keeps tightening his grip like a vice that never comes off. So we get a simile there, like a vice that never comes off. Just mentioning that because that would be another instance of non-literal figurative language. Defeated in front of Gara without even showing his true strength. Okay. Moving on to Midare, am I saying that right? The assassin that draws closer, unnoticed, together with the sound of rainfall. He's a user of assassination techniques who draws near the opponent's back, blending in with the sound of rainfall, and chokes the life out of his prey. His personality is cruel even if persistent, and he uses his brain to judge the situation without lacking coolness. In any case, he's the strategist in his team. Again, relatively accurate description of what we see. I don't think we actually see him creeping up on Gara with this, rain a bit like sneaking ability, if I remember correctly, but that doesn't mean he doesn't do that elsewhere. It's totally fine. The one thing that I would say is that the use of the phrase "in any case," we have a lot of statements that we'll see, I'm sure, as we continue through the data books about characters always remaining calm, never showing emotion, etc. And it's like, again, it's fine to interpret that stuff as like within the context of the fights that we see when they're fighting, they never show any emotion. But then it's worth looking at the manga to see if that's actually the case, and it's worth understanding that, like, hey, maybe those characters do have points in their life where they are allowed to show emotion. Maybe this is talking about the context of the battlefield. So again, this is just to establish that the data books do often use language that is appropriate in the context of what's being depicted on the panel or in the example image or something like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a universally true statement. And when you start to realize like how often the data books do stuff like that, it starts to it should calibrate your understanding of other statements about character strength as well. Let's see. Let's check in with chat. The slimy orb says, "Guard and escape. He just blocked, thus proving even Madara can't escape it." No, absolutely. Fucking if Kaguya gets underneath this Senbon shower, there's nothing that she can do. I mean, like, literally, it says in this inherently expository text that there's no way to escape. No way at all. Right, so I'm sorry for lying to you before about like Minato being able to get out or Obito phasing through or whatever else, or like a reverse summoning. Nothing will work because it says so in the text, right? So when in Amegakure did this happen, it was after Pain. Did he know about them going to the Leaf? This is in the first data book, which for context, it only covers up until I forget exactly when. I think it covers up through the invasion by Orochimaru, but it stops somewhere before Itachi shows up, because his appearance doesn't happen until like the fucking Waterfang bullet shows up in the second data book as opposed to the first. So, and that's in chapter 141. So I think it's like up to chapter 120 or something like that. Maybe 130, I forget for sure. See, by the power of Grayskull, you're reclaiming your Highlander spot there. Good to see. Hope you're doing well. Sorry, I hope the video's coming along well. Let's continue. The night is long. Cuckoo. The illusion that received the attack splits and multiplies endlessly. Okay, again, endlessly from the perspective of it goes to Orochimaru summoning the Hokage. Gotcha. Cool. Thank you for that context. So yeah, endlessly is something that we should take with a grain of salt there, right? Like, it's an illusion, so the sustaining of the illusion is going to be contingent on the chakra of the caster. Understand here that endless doesn't really apply to the literal energy output of the character, right? He catches the enemy with a pair of eyes in his mind. Does he literally have eyes in his mind, or is that like a figurative description? In general, he assumes the role of surveillance in the attacks when the three of them move as one. Both his hidden eyes sharpen his senses, and that's in order to perceive someone who's approaching. That's fair. It seems simple at first, but for a Genjutsu user who wins if he makes the first move faster than the others, it's an essential role. Again, is that a universal claim about like as long as he makes the first move he will win? Obviously not, right? It's just pointing to a trend in his combat style and a like something that he leans on as a fighter would be how I would interpret it. Moving on to Oboro, his ruthless killing intent leaks out of both of his eyes. Okay, that's clearly like figurative language, right? It's not like killing intent materializes as a liquid that then spills forward literally. This is more figurative language. And again, like we don't have to say intuitively, I just know it because I know it. Like we can say, okay, if this were literally true, what would it look like? Well, in order for something to leak out, it would have to, you know, we can try to imagine what it would look like if it were literally the case. Then we can test to see whether or not that is actually what's being depicted. And no, there's nothing literally leaking out of his eyes, right? It's a figurative description. He acts as if the illusion is perpetrating the attacks during the second stage of the exams. Since he acted alone, Sasuke managed to stab his dominant arm. Since then, he obstinately looked for Naruto and the others. That's fair, right? So what you should be noticing at this point is that depending on the context and depending on the like tone and design, like the whims of the author, any given statement in the databook might be true or might be false. It might be fair to take it literally, or it might be dangerous to take it literally for power scaling purposes. And so if we really want to know, we really want to know which one it is. We should continue to maintain an awareness of that fact, and we should also whatchamacallit, we should start to build up an understanding, like a contextual based understanding of the trends that the data books actually use. Not like come to conclusions based on preconceived notions, but like really study and pay attention as we're going. And also you might start to notice that the majority of the statements that are most like hyperbolic or figurative, not all of them, but a good number of them tend to show up in what is sometimes referred to as the banner text, namely the bold statements at the start of each chapter. So now, to be clear, if you want to use the data books to understand these characters, reading this will help you better understand them. That shouldn't be controversial. If you want to know how old they are, what their numbers and registration numbers are, you can probably take that stuff at face value. However, if you want to argue for these characters being like in a power scaling context, obviously it would be pretty facetious and pretty misguided to say that just because these statements here indicate that there's no way to escape and this guy has endless energy, that we shouldn't take that at face value, obviously, right? And if we're trying to understand what the data books are overall in context, like what kind of language they use, it would be incorrect, in addition to just being unfair, to say that they are even primarily one form of information when they're so varied, right? It's constantly changing. And even the perspective of the narrator might change based on what character is being described. So to wrap this up, and then I'll go back and check on chat. The eye that peeps from the darkness produces endless illusions. Another endless thing over here. Notice it's in the banner text again, right? He produces the illusions that are the cornerstone be figurative, of their three acting as one attacks. His ability, genjutsu, and stamina, which multiply the illusory ninjas ad infinitum, meaning like infinitely, and make them last for a long period of time, are amazing for a genin. His close combat and taijutsu are not very good, and he can't show his true strength alone. He waits for the enemy to get tired and surely closes his tight besiegement. That's a cool turn of phrase. So yeah, again, you can absolutely learn shit, whether it's basic shit, like the characters' names, or more about their personalities and their tactics and stuff like that. The series itself isn't as explicit about their roles and their history and their styles and stuff like that. I don't think we would ever know any of the shit about Mitara's, like, blending in with the rain tactics or whatever. So the data books are informative. They're important. They are, you know, telling, revealing, and also there's a mixture of different language being used, and so you have to be careful if you're going to use this for power scaling, right? Let me check in on chat real quick. Knowing Sage, you probably argue that people like Madara, Kaguya, and etc. aren't included in such statements since they don't appear in the chapters the databooks covers. Well, that's the thing, though, is that Kaguya appears in the fourth data book, and her statements about like Ame no Minaka and Yomotsu Hirasaka and stuff, the data books cover up, the fourth data book goes up to 691, I think, which is the end of, that's after, well, we can just take a look at it, right? Like, let's take a look at where 691 ends. Hopefully we don't get those ads this time. All right, so we're getting we're getting something. But like it's definitely after the Kaguya fight. Let's just see exactly where it is. Yeah, so 691 is the final volume. So it doesn't include the stuff in the final volume. Final volume starts off with the characters already back from fighting Kaguya and her being defeated. So yeah, and we could also just take a look at what's in the 4th data book on Narutoversity. It does include pages on Kaguya. The weird thing that I'd actually want to make like double check. Sorry, I would like to hear it from the horse's mouth, from Sage, is like how he reconciles the DMS Kakashi thing, because I think he puts DMS Kakashi over Kaguya and therefore over Hashirama, but he says that I don't even want to get into that, but like we talked about how there's an entry in the 4th data book that says Hashirama is the strongest shinobi, and then if you were here for the Hashirama streams, you know that like that gets extended to be like, oh, he's stronger than Jubito and stuff like that. But DMS Kakashi is also included up to 691, so fucking whatever. Slimy Orb says, I just wish I had brought up at some point about the Amenin going to the Leaf, even though it was a side thing, like some shinobi even went to other villages. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I wonder if maybe Kishimoto hadn't like thought that far ahead at this point, because Pain wasn't even a, you know, the Akatsuki was probably in his mind at this point, but technically speaking, we don't see, we don't have any mentions of the Akatsuki even as an organization until, I think maybe it's mentioned that Orochimaru was an Akatsuki member before the 2nd data book happens. I don't remember for sure, but certainly Pain was not introduced for quite some time after that, right? So who know the infinite they had infinite Tsukuyomi with us endless solutions again, like another fucking, you know, Madara anti-feat here. I'm just saying. I'm sorry for bumping the mic. Hey Omni, how's it going? It's good to see you. Hope you are doing well. We are talking about the Naruto databooks. Sure, I guess you could say I have an agenda, which is just to help people better understand them, and specifically to counter what I perceive to be the misinformation about misinterpretations of the databooks being used overly literally for power scaling. And so really just kind of taking your time going through them, discussing the type of language that is used and how to distinguish between stuff that should be taken literally and maybe stuff that shouldn't be. Yeah, hope your trip is going well. Slimy says, I feel like you just forgot about the randoms and the tuning exams. Yeah, that might be the case. I mean, there are hundreds of characters. In addition to, like, let's see, it's probably easier if I pick out the 3rd data book because I don't want to move that one. But every data book also has mini character profiles. So in addition to the main ones that everybody talks about, there are also, well, I know there's in the 4th one. I thought they were in here too. One second. Like pretty much every single like fucking little background character that you only see for like a picosecond or whatever. That's a poor choice of wording, but you only see like in a single frame. Sorry, I totally voided out there for a second. What I was trying to say is that every single teeny tiny minor character, maybe with some rare exceptions, gets a name and a tiny little backstory, and they have like teeny tiny mini character profiles. At least I thought they did. I'm looking at the 3rd data book now and I don't see them here. And the 4th data book definitely has them. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so first of all, I think Dr. Strangle, you were saying this before, that like there is a chart in the 3rd data book as well that kind of shows how much the various characters have grown. So there's that. That's on page 220 of the 3rd data book. And then, yeah, so just to give you a quick preview of the I just had it. What the hell's wrong with me? One sec. Beast. Oh yeah, so it's like here. All of these characters who nobody even remembers for sure. I'm kidding, of course. But like, look, we were talking about Jugo before. All of the characters in the hideout over here are given names. Maybe not every single one of them. Not every motherfucker in the background in the cages and stuff like that we don't see their faces. But you know, these guys who come forward and like wind up getting fucked up by Sasuke and all that, like they're there. Like all these people from other villages and stuff. They all have little backstories. It's kind of cute, actually. Like all these, the four random women that don't even have any dialogue at the hot springs. They each have a name and an age and a whole background and everything. So yeah, it's kind of cool. There's actually a lot of detail that gets put into this. I wonder genuinely if Kishimoto went through and did that, or if he's like, you know what, guys, just fucking, like, the caramel mom or whatever, just give him a name. Like, I trust you. Fucking, I don't care. Like, like I genuinely wonder. The dude put his honeymoon on hold for 20 years. He postponed his honeymoon for 20 years because he was working around the clock for 20 fucking years on Naruto. I don't know if he necessarily then also, in addition to that, sat down and came up with names and backstories for all the girls in the hot springs. Just saying, maybe he had some help. Maybe he had some other creative input. All the characters that screen time was drained for the depression swing is in there. Oh yeah. Oh my god, that swing is such a meme. It doesn't actually show up that often in the manga, but it's like everywhere in the anime, right? Anyway, let's keep going. The Anbu, the Hokage subordinates Konoha's elite squad. So, especially since we don't have the active page over here. Here it is, page 22. Let me see if I can get the camera back into a better place. There we go. Okay. The Hokage subordinates Konoha's elite squad. Their official name is Special Assassination and Tactical Squad, Ansatsu Senjutsu Tokusho Butai. They cover their face with white masks, which imitate animals, and reveal nothing of themselves due to the nature of their missions. The Anbu is composed of ninjas selectively picked from the entire village, and that follow no standard classification like Genin, Chunin, or Jonin. They're a faceless squadron that protects the Hokage and the village from the shadows. Being the direct subordinates to the Hokage, only he can give them missions. The feats of the Anbu are not officially released. Anbu easily immobilizes the giant tigers. Even Anko respects the Anbu. Yeah, that's cool. So there's plenty of useful data in there. Some stuff that I might dispute is that if you read the novels, some of the Anbu, and also like when you consider the relationship between like Yamato and Kakashi, there are instances where the characters in the Anbu do reveal things about themselves, whether that's just in communication with one another, like sharing, like becoming battle buddies essentially. But also I forget what I don't know what the character's name is. Maybe she'll show up in a little bit, but there is that one character who kneels at the grave, and she's a kunoichi with like long pink hair, I think, and she kneels in front of a grave before the like Orochimaru attacks the village, and then puts on her mask. So they also do reveal certain things to us, the audience, in certain circumstances. Again, this is it's probably safe to assume that they do easily immobilize the giant tigers. I'm not going to interrogate that. It's probably fair to assume that Anko respects them. I'm not going to interrogate that. But also, not every single thing here is necessarily literal. Also, faceless squadron is figurative language. They do have faces. It's just you don't see them because they're under masks. So, again, just to be aware of that. Inari and Pochi is unfortunately untranslated, but there's the page. It's on page 23. If you would like to have that translated, please feel free to use this image. Let's move on to future Hokage Kiba over here. The literal underdog. Least favorite food is soft foods, but he likes beef and cartilage. Enterprising, impatient, wild. Sure, that's probably all fine. Interest going for a walk with Akamaru. Again, like, that doesn't mean that's his only fucking interest, right? So, just because that's the only one that shows up here. Yeah. Mission experience, this seems fair. I'm not gonna, we could actually have a discussion about the statistics. I think there's some confusion about like how stats are meant to be used in the databooks, and like whether or not they refer to characters' internal metrics versus whether they compare to others, especially when you consider like this chart here. If you've ever played a fighting game, or even like I think certain racing games like Mario Kart and shit like that will sometimes have those charts. The purpose of those charts, as far as I can tell, is to illustrate how different characters within a roster compare to one another. These are not like precise mathematical measurements, and you can see that the scale maxes out at a certain level, right? It's only calibrated up to a certain peak, in the same way that like dosimeters, or whatever they're called for measuring radiation, have different maximum levels of radiation that they can measure. If you've seen Chernobyl, you know the whole 3.6 Röntgen thing. um, yeah, so take it with a grain of salt. I think some people, like Noodles, have said that the Databook stats are like every character. I don't really want to get too deep into this, but like they've interpreted it very differently and very weirdly, where like every character's stats are only calibrated to themselves. So when it says that Kiba has a stamina of 1.5, and we compare that to somebody up here, yeah, to like Shino's stamina, which I guess would be a like a 1, right? That doesn't actually mean that Kiba has a little bit more stamina than Shino. We actually have no idea based on that whether or not Shino or Kiba has the higher amount of stamina, because all that's saying is that Kiba's stamina is higher than his own speed, or like lower than his own speed. This 1.5 means that like on Kiba's level, his ninjutsu is 1.5 times, is like 1.5 out of 5 as strong as it could be compared to his other stats. His intelligence is 1 out of 5 compared to his other stats, which is really weird because there is no like 0 and there is no 5, so there is no peak and no trough. I guess you could say that like Genjutsu is the lowest thing, but like at any rate, the idea is that since we have some weird things, like I fucking forget, but it's like Kakashi's like speed and Haku's, like Haku has a faster speed than Kakashi, or vice versa, and like Sakura has a striking strength that's like stronger than Naruto's. So people look at stats like that seem contradictory or seem to be flawed, and in order to reconcile that, they're like, okay, well, clearly there's something wrong with comparing stats between characters. So they come up with this alternate model as to how this is supposed to work. To me, the much more elegant and more higher explanatory power explanation is just that like some of the stats are goofy and not 100% correct, right? It's like they're not necessarily perfect. But the whole point of like, if we just scroll through a couple of characters here, right? Not every character has it, but like Naruto's over here. And then we scroll to the next character who has one. And okay, well, Itachi is mentioned over here. He has a question mark, right? That's fine. This is Sasuke's. This is, let's see, let's keep going. Sasuke's entry is going to be long as shit. This is Ebisu's, right? Like, overall, you start to notice, like, that the characters that are super high tier tend to have, like, basically question marks or unquantified numbers or, like, totally maxed out. Characters that are weaker have, like, lower spreads, lower surface area that's being, or lower, yeah, area that's being, gobbled up by their, the chart has less space taken up. The stronger characters have more space taken up. Like, here's Guys, right? You can see that's a big fucking chunk. He's strong at pretty much everything. So the stronger the characters get, the more area is taken up on the charts. The weaker the characters are, the less area is taken up on the charts. The point of this, sorry for the camera wobble there, I'm trying to reorganize things a little bit. The point of shit like this, just like in fighting games, is to show you an at-a-glance visual representation of the overall brackets and differences in skill between characters. Because there are some errors in some of them, or some things that don't seem to line up or are quirky or whatever, people try to get around that by saying, we can't start questioning the validity of the data book, so there must be some other explanation. So they come up with this really weird, fucking convoluted, arbitrary, uncalibrated explanation where none of the numbers even mean anything because every single character has a completely different, like, gold standard or measuring stick. So that, to me, is just absurd, and it doesn't give us any meaningful data whatsoever. But if we accept that even some of the numerical things in the data books might be inconsistent, then we have to start asking more questions. Then we might have to apply more scrutiny. We might have to look at things more closely. We can't do that, right? Because then we have to go back and put in all this extra effort. And so, that's what I talk about like, sometimes it feels like people put, if people put a fraction of the amount of time and effort into just reading the fucking books as they do and coming up with these crazy, like, mental gymnastics, not to say crazy in a derogatory way, just like crazy very elaborate mental gymnastics. I do think that sometimes it comes from a place of genuinely trying to understand and reconcile differences. I don't think it's like necessarily malicious or in bad faith, but I do think that sometimes it's like when you come across contradictions like this, certain power scalers will like fly into a panic almost, being like, "Well, shit! Now what the fuck do we do? We have to reconcile this. We have to find a grand unified theory that explains everything." And sometimes the answer is just that this is just a fuck up, right? It's just a mistake. It's not that big of a deal, right? You don't have to go through all this effort to justify everything. Sometimes things can be inconsistent. It's not a big deal. Slimy Orb says it could be like stats in JoJo. Even stats are JoJo. Everything's a fucking JoJo reference. Whereas an overall scale, however, their ratings are in relation to what they can do, but they're more defined than JoJo's stand stats. Yeah, and that might work for JoJo. I would have to see that to be sure. I don't think that applies to this particular universe. But hey, if there is a system out there, or if there's a counter argument, something I'm missing, I'm definitely open to it. I just don't see it yet for Naruto, right? Hopefully that sounds fair. Oh, he's a dog under something. Yeah, exactly. There is a dog involved. Is the dog a stand? Yeah, Kiba's fucking dog is his his live-in JoJo reference. Okay, so here we go. Insanely wild, Konoha's rapid Fang. Yes, he's rapid. He is not a Fang himself. Insanely wild, figurative language. The wildest ninja in Konoha follows instinct more than guess. He might be the wildest ninja, but how are we quantifying that? Kiba, which means Fang, has always lived and trained with his ninja dog Akamaru. Always, even since he was like a little tiny baby? Probably not. So, again, the gist of it is there, but let's not take things hyper literally. In the Ninja Academy, he was not exactly diligent, but since he was a genin, he surprises his master Kurenai with progress. He covers his body with chakra and chases his opponent with animal fury. That's probably... I don't have any problems with that. But he's also good-natured and takes care of his buddies. He doesn't treat Akamaru like a dog, but like a brother. Sure. It's great. There are no bad people who like animals. Honestly, this is one of my favorite statements from within the Databooks overall. Right? This is very, very sweet. This is what Kiba believes, personally. The excellent cooperation with his ninja dog enables Kiba's strong attacks. He collects his entire chakra in his nose and thus sharpens a sense of smell. Okay, obviously, this isn't literally true. He's not going to collect his entire chakra in his nose because then he would fucking die if once that ran out. And, like, we can see in the picture, well, even if that's not entirely accurate, like, we can see in the picture down here that he's got chakra wrapped around his hand. So this is not entirely literal, right? He does gather a shitload of chakra into his actually it's like all around his body, right? So he gathers a lot of chakra in his nose in order to enhance the sense of smell. That doesn't mean all of his fucking chakra's going there, right? That's hyperbole. Thanks to his instinct, he recognizes the danger of Gaara and warns his buddies before the fight with Naruto. But I don't know. I think that this... I thought there was another line about this. Maybe it's in another data book. But yeah, Kiba's personality is just like... He thinks that if you are the sort of person who likes an animal, then you can't be bad, essentially. Now, these pages are a little unfortunate because I think, if I remember correctly, when I tried to access these before... oh, no, they came up okay. Let me see. Are they showing up okay on stream? Okay, yeah. So let me move this to the side for a second so we can see the full page. I can flip, obviously, to... Oh, wait a minute. Did it skip over Iruka's page? I guess so. That's odd. 1 second. Oh yeah, Iruka's untranslated. Okay. So Iruka's untranslated for whatever reason. I didn't get to it. Here it is, page 26 and 27. If you want to read that for yourself, feel free. Oh, actually, there's more. There's a bunch of stuff here. We should have this translated because it would be useful to fill in the gaps. So yeah, I'm going to start making a list of... I actually have this list on my big-ass spreadsheet, but I'm going to make another thing over here where I'll get together... What the hell? What's wrong with my app? 1 second. It's fucking giving me trouble. Yep, okay, this is broken. Hooray! 1 second. Translations. First data book. Iruka. Page 28, 29. Okay, yeah, I'm going to start making a list of untranslated pages and then getting... started building like a group of people that I can request how How about No says, actually, he wouldn't. Focusing all your chakra at a given point happens all the time. Well, all of your available chakra, right? But not every single ounce of chakra that you have available at all. Like, because if you do, I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I know if you expend all your chakra, like all of it, you die. So it would be weird to me if he's like focusing all of it in his nose. But maybe that's literally true. I could be wrong about that. In the novels and such, chakra in this case mean the molded stuff. Oh yeah, in the molded stuff. That's fair. That's probably accurate, right? The slimy orb says, "Oh man, I lagged out before my message was sent. Gonna resend it." Yeah, no worries. Sometimes the YouTube interface can be a little janky anyway. Okay, so let's take a look at Naruto's entries. I guess I don't really. Oh yeah, thanks. So let's take a look at Naruto's entries. I mean, like they're pretty much in full here, but you know, you can still see the Japanese if you want to. Make sure the camera's framed correctly. Yeah, okay. So I'll surpass all the previous Hokage. Things you must pay attention to are his stamina and latent ability. Moreover, the Nine Tails chakra is impossible to measure. Okay, so I can just hear it now in a debate. Kid Naruto is boundless because he has immeasurable chakra. And immeasurable means defies any capability of being measured. And therefore it would need to be like infinite, boundless, universal plus, whatever the fucking term is, right? Let's not get carried away. We have very clear anti-feats for Naruto's like durability and power in part 1. Even when he gets into like KCM2 and stuff, he's not infinitely powerful. The term impossible to measure or immeasurable or stuff like that, that is a bit of figurative language that gets used a lot and shouldn't be taken literally because it does not reflect what's in the series. Mischievous, the problem, there is a way to interpret it literally, which would just be that they do not have the tools to measure it in any sort of meaningful way. And that I do believe is true. But that doesn't mean that it's infinite, just to be clear. Mischievous, the problematic child of the village hidden in the leaves, is a dead last even at the academy. Naruto's huge dream is to inherit the name of Hokage, the hero of the village, and become the ninja who surpassed the previous Hokage. With an incredible dream and strength at full speed in the road of Hokage. It was a little loosey-goosey with the language here, but that's fine. Since he has the nine-tailed demon fox sealed inside his body, Naruto has been alienated by everyone in the village. Not technically true, he didn't get alienated by, like, Iruka. And spent day after day in solitude. However, he has... Oh, yeah, and also we see scenes of him being, like, friends with Shikamaru and Choji and stuff like that. So I guess it could be true if it depends on how you interpret the term alienated. Granted, it's not like Iruka takes him home and adopts him or something like that. Like, everybody does kind of keep him at a distance, even his friends. So maybe this is true. It's just open to interpretation, right? However, he has a dream of Hokage, and with Iruka's support, who understands him well, he strongly pushes forward towards his dream, believing in himself. A dangerous technique that demands a huge amount of chakra. With his latent power, he can perform the Kagebunji no Jutsu. With the meeting with Sasuke and Kakashi, and then, in the Land of Waves, during the fights of the Chunin selection exams, Naruto achieved an amazing growth. Sasuke and Sakura, and then all the people of the village began gradually acknowledging Naruto's existence. Naruto started catching hold of his dream with his own strength. This thrilling story has just raised the curtain. Okay, so a couple of things to note there. On the one hand, we are using language that does accurately refer to what is happening in the series. In that, I remember the Land of Waves shit. That definitely happened. He was with Sasuke. He was with Kakashi. He went through the Chunin exams. And, like, his growth did amaze other people. However, catching hold of a dream, that is obviously not literal language. As well as this thrilling story has just raised the curtain. Now we're almost like switching into not advertisement language, but right, like the narration has changed. Now it's more about, this almost sounds like something that Naruto himself would say, right? Like, this is my story, this is thrilling, this is the peak, like, I'm gonna be the best. You could totally see Naruto saying this stuff. So it does seem like the narrator has a tendency to conform the diction and the performance around the character's personality from time to time, right? So there's no fucking curtain, and the story, like, no literal curtain, and the thrilling story, the thrilling is debatable. This is not figurative language. This is not literal language, it's figurative. This is not the sort of shit that you would ever put in a fucking scientific paper, right? If you did, you maybe get like one of these. Like, this is, again, like, if I publish a really cool paper on lasers, like, I am thrilled to have raised the curtain on an exciting new branch of laser research, and it is my dream, a big, big dream, that I will persist on to continue to push this forward. You can get away with that maybe once, maybe twice, but like it's not, it's not something that you really get to use very often at all. He loves Ichiraku ramen more than anything else because he used to eat there with his respected Iruka sensei, rather because Iruka treated him to it. Oh, sorry, talking about ramen makes me sleepy, I guess. I'm gonna skip this page because YouTube. Feel free to pause it and read it yourself. But yeah, I don't want to run the risk of having the stream go down as happened before. So sorry that I'm cherry picking my data and I'm not showing you that particular page. I guess we're gonna just have to deal with the filtered data set. But I can't I can't risk the exposure, so to speak. Let me catch up on chat real quick. It's impossible to measure, and it's half of the full 9 tails. So Minato also has measurable chakra, and Kushina tapped double the measurable chakra with basically no issue. Yeah, exactly. So she's definitely out reversal, right? The slimy orb says ramen guy. Oh yeah, Teochi is the best. Teochi's now old, rip. Oh no. Well, I suppose. I mean, like fucking what's his name? Onoki and Tsunade are still alive and kicking in Boruto. Like, so I don't know. We saw them in the last stream, right? Note, raising the curtain isn't there in the Japanese, unfortunately, just says the stories just begun. Okay, yeah, so that's another kind of creative liberty that's taken with the translation. I appreciate the context there. That's the thing, though, like, I might, well, this is perfect. So, you might be noticing that Naruto is screaming fuck off at this snake. Some of the translations, like, I don't know, I'd have to go and, I guess, yeah, let me see here. Can I pull up my translation app on my phone and see what exactly he's saying? Or maybe actually, how about no, are you able to tell what Naruto is saying here? I'll bring the screen up a little bit bigger so you can see. One sec. There we go. Right, so right there on the side, let me flatten it a little bit. There. Is he saying fuck off? I would genuinely be curious to know. But yeah, so I think that that the translators and what's the term for it? Localizers can take some creative liberties with things, and this is another example of that. That being said, part of the reason why I'm not quibbling over a lot of the stuff or like going and like double checking every single translation is because within our community, people have a tendency to just quote this stuff literally without checking the translation's veracity unless they feel the need to second guess it. It's not like common practice to by default just like check every single translation. So given that people in the community use these translations at face value, I am doing the same because this is what you are going to run into in debates. And so we should be able to have a conversation about this version of the translation because this is what people are using anyway. Hopefully that makes sense. But absolutely, like, double check it, get somebody else to translate it, you know, like every additional perspective is just more data that we can benefit from. Naruto says he goes beyond thought spots and keeps on growing. A shocking natural power. So that's a great example right there. What the fuck does it mean to go beyond thought spots? I think it's pretty clear that what he's saying here is he goes beyond tough. What the intended translation is going beyond tough spots, and what that means is just like exceeding the difficult and dangerous moments and the obstacles in his way, right? So if I translated that and I chose to translate it as like he surpasses obstacles, I think that would be a reasonable localization, even though the term obstacle might not have been specifically used in the Japanese, and that might actually get us closer than, like, not to slander the original translator, but saying beyond thought spots, it just like doesn't mean anything, right? So shocking natural powers, obviously figurative language. In the terrific fight with Haku, again, like not literal language there, Naruto showed for the first time a glimpse of the demon fox's power. Technically speaking, you could dispute that by at least asking if he was potentially using some of Kurama's power when he used the 1,000 clones for the first time, but I mean that's the splitting hairs, right? acting according to Naruto's violent rage, until his chakra started overflowing, and it gave Naruto a strength that exceeded even the ability of Haku's Kekkei Genkai. So this is something that is worth considering, right? Like, if you think that Haku is... No, I'm not gonna... I was gonna say... I don't even think that anybody would really make this argument, so it's like, whatever. But, you wouldn't want to say that, like, since Haku's Kekkei Genkai makes him move at light speed, and Naruto here exceeded his Kekkei Genkai, that Naruto necessarily moves faster than light, right? Regardless of what you actually think about the speed of light in Naruto, you should be aware that taking things literally here might not apply universally. Like, Naruto being able to exceed Haku's ability, okay, he beat him, but does that mean that he was exceeding it in every capacity, including speed? I don't know about that. Orochimaru in the Forest of Death, Orochimaru showed Sasuke the overwhelming difference between their true strengths, that's fine. And Sasuke stopped resisting, then Naruto, disgusted by Sasuke, fought against a huge snake alone. Oh, fuck, sorry, I'm so tired. And drew a single blow of anger into it. He doesn't give in, no matter what kind of enemy. That's Naruto's ninja way and his strength. That's true. The power of the demon fox revealed itself due to his upsurge of emotions, and this strength made itself even unto Orochimaru. Let me check on chat real quick. I didn't show one page. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I presented you with a biased and skewed data set. I mean, technically, you could pause the video and look at it, but, you know, I'm caving into political correctness. The woke agenda is seeping through my work yet again, so I'm going to have to take down the stream and head on over to BreadTube, where I belong. I'm done with the stream. Give Teuchi all the Hashirama chakra there. Good to Kyla, then die. Yeah, I mean, like, that guy kept the morale of an entire fucking village in wartime alive, so I think he's the true hero of the village for sure. Kuso Kurai, that this, yeah. Oh, derogatory term. Okay, gotcha, yeah. So, I mean, like, fuck off might actually be a reasonable localization in terms of the overall emotion that's going on there. Especially if it counts as like a quote unquote curse word, if that's even like a concept in Japanese, right? The same way that it is in English. He's a good guy to let live. Oh, he's too good a guy to let live. Oh no. Just watch one conversation with him will make the divine trees be heroes. Yeah, absolutely. That inspiration, that dedication, that level of detail. Honestly, I feel like if Jura just went and sat down with fucking Pickle Rick has entered the chat. If Jura just went and sat down for a bowl of ramen, he'd probably chill the fuck out. Like, I don't think he'd want to attack the village and threaten the place where Teuchi does his like makes his art, right? If he wants to understand love, what better way than by going and experiencing the love of literally perfect food from a perfect man. Kiba. Naruto fought hard in a situation of 2 against 1, with Kiba Nakamaru as his opponents. Actually, 1 second. Let me inhale oxygen and drink. 1 second. Sorry if those gross gulping sounds came across on the mic. I don't know how sensitive it is, but yeah, I'm like probably dehydrated, honestly. Sorry, says knock knock, who's there? It's Pickle. It's Pickle. It's Pickle surprise. Just a food ad. Why would I be evil when I can just eat this ramen? Honestly, yeah, I could see that. Like Chura, like I'm the divine tree and this is my favorite ramen shop on the Citadel type thing. Let's see. He developed his intelligence with a tactic that confused Kiba, disguising himself into Akamaru with the transformation technique, and won. In this fight, Naruto really felt his own growth again. Every time he... Pause. Every time he says feeling his own growth mid-combat. Great. Every time he says the word Hokage, Naruto gets stronger. This pure aspiration creates strength. Okay, yeah, this is the thing that I brought up in a previous stream, right? Let's please, for the love of Kishimoto, not take this literally. Because if this is literally the case, like, I can just hear it now, somebody being like, okay, so every time Naruto says this, he gets like a, what is it? I always forget the name of it. The Zenkai boost in Dragon Ball, where he basically just like gives himself a literal power boost just by saying the word. I mean, it literally says pure aspiration creates strength. So all he has to do is want something really bad. He could just like if you've seen Team 4 Stars Dragon Ball Z Abridged, when Vegeta finally becomes a Super Saiyan, there's a clip of him just like on the ground, like pounding the floor, being like, I wanna be a Super Saiyan, I want it. Just basically imagine Naruto standing in a corner, being like, Hokage, 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 and just like really, really wanting it. And then that's all the training he needs to do, right? Because it just it creates strength. He just gets stronger by just wanting it really. Like, fuck, no. Obviously not. This is why we can't use the databook statements like hyper literally for power scaling, because yeah, that it's basically accurate to say that Naruto has a strong desire, and that strong desire creates strength, but that's creation through motivation to do hard work and train and stuff like that. It's not literally transmutation of one thing into the other, right? So wildness against wildness, even Kiba was overwhelmed by this. Not exactly, he gets surprised by it, not overwhelmed. The moment that dead last, Naruto surpassed the genius. Yeah, that's true. In the battle against the genius Neji, everybody guessed that Naruto would be defeated. Naruto was completely unable to compete with Neji at first, who attacked him one-sidedly, but able to keep fighting, believing that he could cut through his destiny with his own strength. Obviously, cutting through destiny is like figurative language there. Then he drew out the Demon Fox's strength with his own willpower for the first time and obtained the victory. Even if it was imperfect, Naruto mastered the Demon Fox's power. Okay, so a couple of things here. This entry overall uses a mixture of narration that is just literally recapping what happened, and it's also using some figurative and some kind of out there language. In addition, we really shouldn't take a statement like Naruto mastered the Demon Fox's power to suggest that Naruto was equivalent to KCM2 in that, like, obviously he didn't literally master it, right? He mastered Kurama's chakra within the context of this fight. He achieved a level of control over it, but he's not a fucking master Jinchuriki, right? He's not a perfect Jinchuriki, if you even believe that that's an appropriate term. So again, it's not that this statement is inherently wrong. It's not that it's inherently inaccurate. It's not that it can't be used to understand the series. It absolutely can. But it's not perfect for power scaling. It's not really appropriate for us to just take statements like this literally and shove them into a power scaling context. I think this is, page 36. So this is Sasuke's entry. Make sure that it's still showing up on the... Yep, okay. Maybe I'll try to move this up a little bit. Hang on. Give you a better view of the whole page. Does that help? Okay, hopefully that's okay. Sasuke's existence... Yeah, I can actually make this a little bigger now. Sasuke's existence elevated Naruto to an even higher height. I mean, figurative language, I would say. Sasuke at the best of the class at the Academy, Naruto the dead last, even more at the Antipodes. Like dogs and cats, for the dead last Naruto, Sasuke is a rival in love that makes Sakura's heart his, and a detestable guy that looks down on him with his high grades. See how it's kind of like from Naruto's perspective here? You could see Naruto saying this out loud. Sasuke is at his own antipodes, so he always opposes him. I think antipodes or antipodes, how the fuck do you say that? Let me look this up. It means like opposite sides, right? Opposite ends. But I want to actually see how you should pronounce this. Antipode definition. You're gonna hear the AI voice speak. It might be loud, so heads up. 3, 2, 1.
Antipode.
Oh, antipode. Okay.
Antipode.
The direct or exact opposite of something, stemming from the Greek antipos, with feet opposite ours. Cool. Catching up on chat here. That wouldn't last because if they eat all the ramen, Naruto will fight them regardless. Oh yeah, that's a good point, right? So here's the real question. Can tree eat a noodle? Can a tree eat a noodle? It'll be a topic for the next term. Boo, Beerus in the pudding. Oh, yeah. Zenkai is strength from healing from damages more Sasuke during the Kokage summit. Yeah, I think that's actually a better analogy because he's like actually going through the process of leveling up his Susanoo in real time. I was just trying to find an analogy of like, you throw yourself into a certain situation that's guaranteed to get you a discrete power boost. But you're absolutely right there. Sorry says this is literally what Robert Kirkman said. The person who wins is the one who wants it more. And literally everyone is like, then why did Oliver get manhandled by Conquest? Oh, is that a Invincible thing? I'm not up to date with Invincible. But yeah, like again, we I think we understand like, and this is where somebody comes in and says crisis maxims, but like we understand in general that this sort of language is not meant to be taken hyper literally, which is why it's so frustrating when people do so for the data books. It's like it feels very disingenuous, but I don't know, whatever. Don't want to infer intention. Sorry says, because if you're gonna tell me he didn't want it bad enough, that's insane behavior. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. Do you think that the conclusion of the fight between Naruto and Sasuke, um, so here's the thing. There are definitely instances in Naruto where you have characters who are like villains who wind up getting defeated by our heroes because they lose willpower. So it's definitely a factor. But to say that anybody who loses only lost because of their desire not being sufficient, I mean, like, desire is one variable in a very complex equation that determines somebody's success or failure, right? So, friendship, there's not only hostility between the two who compete with each other, but also a friendship that they mutually acknowledge. Sasuke's action, who protected Naruto sacrificing his own body, says it. Sure. Sasuke's... Wow, English is hard. Sasuke is better in a ninjutsu battle, but Naruto wins in a spiritual level. Again, like, that's a very strange statement. I don't know how to interpret that, let alone taking it literally. That seems like something Naruto might say. That's a very strange inclusion, certainly from an inherently expository reference text. Someday, Naruto achieved a brilliant growth and became promising, even to the point of showing great effort, more than Sasuke. So, I think that's debatable, but the databook here is suggesting to us that Naruto will put in more effort than Sasuke? Maybe? Do we think that actually reflects in the series? Maybe it does. Sasuke has this image burnt into his eyes more than anyone else. Someday, the day in which their long-awaited showdown will be realized will come. Okay, so again, burnt into his eyes, that's figurative language. Before he knew it, Naruto became a great presence inside Sasuke. Became a great presence inside... Okay, again, let's maybe not take that literally. Always taking it seriously, Naruto competes with Sasuke, being in the same team, and the two complete training and missions out of competition. But if you think about it, they're good rivals that boost each other. Without Sasuke's existence, Naruto's growth would be impossible. Again, right, like, if Sasuke didn't exist, we probably shouldn't assume that literally Naruto would not have grown at all. That would be pretty silly to say. He still has his own motivations and inclinations, even if Sasuke didn't exist. However, the growth in which Naruto, the particular path that Naruto's taking, the particular way in which he's growing, obviously Sasuke is a huge part of his journey. Obviously Sasuke is like extremely important to him. So again, we don't have to throw out the whole statement just because there's some goofy language or some imprecise things here. And also, we really shouldn't be taking everything hyper literally here, because that's not how this fucking data book was written, right? That's just not the nature of it, after all. Okay, let me see if I can get this to be back up to size a little bit more. The Japanese for that is basically Sasuke wins in ninjutsu, but Naruto wins in mental strength. Ah, there we go. That's a much better interpretation. Thank you for that. And that might be the case. Like, his determination is like an obviously a very fundamental part of his character. So here's Itachi. What happened to the Uchiha clan, which met a violent end? Foolish little broken. That's his quote. The Uchiha clan perished except for Itachi, who's the older brother, and Sasuke, the younger brother. We know this isn't technically true because Obito is still around, and I think Obito is the only one. Like, Madara is dead at this point. Is there another? I mean, I guess like Nanashi from the game, but like whatever. I'm trying to think if there's any other like secret Uchiha hiding out anywhere. I can't think of anything. I feel like I'm missing something. Anyway, maybe because it's treated as taboo, the ones who know the reason of his downfall are just a small fraction. However, the only one who can tell is none other than the perpetrator, Itachi, who turned... needs a fucking nap. His figure, his words follow Sasuke's mind around. The nightmare will continue till the day they meet again. Obviously, like, he's not constantly in a nightmare. It's a bit of loose language there. There are a few people that know Itachi, and his true strength is wrapped in mystery, but apparently he inherited the Sharingan, which is a Kikkenkai. Okay, so here's an example of a page that is mostly literal and factual. I kind of have to work to find any reason to dispute anything on this page. Now, this page over here is obviously very different in terms of its overall tone and use of language from this. So, if I were to make a video analyzing the databooks and trying to explain to people what the databooks are, and I chose to show this page for Itachi and say, look, see, everything on this page is correct except maybe this. This page is 99% factual, just like the rest of the databooks, which I have read, and anybody who disagrees with me hasn't read. If I said that, but then I didn't show you this, you might wonder about why I was phrasing things that way. You might not have a specific conclusion. You might not have a specific deduction or explanation for why that decision was made. You might not infer my intention. But you might wonder why I chose to include this and not to include the other. You might wonder if that's an actually fair, unbiased, non-agenda driven, accurate assessment of the databook's contents. You might just speculate about it. You might just be curious about it, right? Maybe. Moving on to Sasuke over here. Let's turn the page. Sasuke's entry. We actually have, I think, it in great detail. So let's just pick up the pages like we did before. Uchiha Sasuke. He learned Kakashi's original technique. He has the ability of the Sharingan that keeps developing. He's an outstanding talent in which the village hidden in the leaves hopes. Sure. A heaven-sent child of the battle that has ability and sense. Okay, I have a feeling that How About No is going to have a better translation for this. That being said, again, it would be pretty sus if I... Why did I say that? It would be pretty unfortunate if I cut out just this page over here and said, look, it's just stats and figures. It's just a literal description of what Sasuke is, and omitted the whole heaven sent thing over here. Now, how many instances of figurative language are we up to now? Like 10, 20? So in the 38 pages that we've read so far, we have 20 instances or so of figurative language being used. So that's like, on average, 1 every 2 pages. If I had a outlandish statement 1 every 2 pages in a scientific research paper, and some of the pages had more, some of the pages were nearly entirely goofy language, it wouldn't pass muster. If I had at least 12, says Slimer. Yeah, that sounds about right? Like, if we have not already crossed the threshold into this is no longer inherently expository, then how many more will it take? Is a reasonable question to ask, I think. Anyway, Uchiha Sasuke, the village hidden in the leaves, last legitimate heir of the prodigious Uchiha clan, graduated from the academy at the top of his class. Everyone in the village acknowledges his genius, and he's the #1 rookie that is noticed. Also around Sasuke, I literally forgot to mention Sasuke in the Itachi thing. Everyone in the village acknowledges his genius. Wow, okay, I need to sleep tonight. And he's the #1 rookie that is noticed. Also around Sasuke, well, I think that's an interesting suggestion, because if I remember correctly, Neji is kind of regarded as being a superior genius by some, so I don't know if that's 100% accurate. Also around Sasuke, who is attractive, it's always noisy with the opposite sex's voices. However, Sasuke doesn't listen to this noise, and he stoically hones his techniques alone for his own goal's sake. I won't overly analyze that, that's probably fine. Also, Sasuke, just like Naruto, lost both his parents and has no relatives. Well, that's not true. That's blatantly false. He does have a relative. It's fucking Itachi. So, again, this might be... Oh, here we go. How About No says, a prodigy of battle possessing both skill and talent. Yeah, there we go. Heaven sent is unfortunate in that case. Prodigy fits much better. I appreciate that. Again, not to dig on the original translator who put in all the work here, but, like, again, we shouldn't take fan translations of the databooks literally. We shouldn't take the databooks literally at all in all instances, but, like, especially fan translation, we have to be vigilant of that, right? That being said, I'm sure there's going to be a similar explanation for why this was translated this way, but yeah, fucking, he absolutely does have a relative. Obito is a fucking Obito. I guess Obito is technically a relative of his, but he has a close relative, a direct relative, in Itachi. It was kind of a big deal. So, when people say that the only things that the databooks get wrong are things like the timeline, that is just false. Here is your proof. Here is the databook being blatantly, goofily wrong about Sasuke's parentage. If you use the fan translation anyway, not parentage, family connections. You will eat the original translator. You're gonna have your meal cut out for you. I think there's a actually I don't know. Don't eat them. They deserve to be. I'm tired. They deserve to be acknowledged and respected and appreciated for the work that they do. That they're under no obligation to be fucking perfect, right? They're doing a free service out of love and passion and care to try to make content available for people to better understand it. Like most people, I would wager, don't do this extremely niche, extremely nitpicking, special interest kind of shit that we do for power scaling. Most people who read this are just gonna be like, oh, okay, whatever, that's a little weird, and then move on with their fucking lives. But we have to go through this because people in our community just take things too far, right? So I really don't think we need to be harsh at all, like have anything negative to say about the original translators. They're not perfect. They were never supposed to be. They don't need to be. They're volunteering commentary to try to help other people understand it. The people that I take umbrage with, in English that means I'm really fucking pissed off at, are the people who then take this shit literally and disrespectfully and make fucking problems out of it. Okay, Eat the Sun, you and fucking Lorna Shore can team up on that. The translation confusion. I'm not sure what you're referring to. How about no? But I'm happy to hear you out for sure. Sasuke, like Naruto, also lost his parents and is alone in the world. See, there we go. So again, like not to harsh the original translator, but it's good to take this stuff with scrutiny, right? Sasuke uses, which is why then when people use the speed of light thing for Waterfang Bullet, or they'll just take like the Raikage's entry or whatever else, or like to understand that there might be other ways to look at it, which I'm sure you do, but anyway. Sasuke uses high-level ninjutsu and unfolds a battle that surpasses again his limits with a sense of battle, which you can also call insight, that compensates for his lack of battle experience. His innate talent and the Uchiha blood make it possible. Even Kakashi acknowledges his ability of reading the state of the battle and breaking the deadlocks. He looks taciturn, but he's the type that gives voice to what he thinks. At the sharp words that are emanated from his handsome physical appearance, any girl easily falls in love with him. Okay, well, that's a bit of a strange thing to say, right? Because, first of all, lesbians exist. Second of all, I don't think Tsunade is gonna fall. I would fucking hope that, like, by girl, we specifically mean girls his age. Because if, like, Tsunade is falling head over heels for him, yeah, that's maybe not ideal. I think there are probably plenty of women and girls who just have no interest in him whatsoever. So, hence the fucking exclamation point and the question mark there. This is obviously language that's not simply Despacito. Yeah, exactly. I think we shouldn't really be taking this super literally, right? And perhaps the indication of the punctuation there is meant to clue us in just a little bit, but also sharp words emitted from his handsome physical appearance. I'm guessing that's a translation quirk, but again, since people are taking Databook statements in these fan translations literally anyway, let's just be very clear that words themselves are not actually literally sharp, and your handsome appearance doesn't spew sharp words from it, right? Figurative language again. I will say, let's take a moment to appreciate just how good Kishimoto is at conveying such a wide range of emotions. Like, Sasuke's face is so expressive here. Like, compare this to that to this. And, like, there aren't that many individual lines. There's not, like, a shitload of detail on a lot of this stuff. Obviously, this is very detailed. But Kishimoto is very good at conveying strong emotion with very simple designs. Even Sasuke's stance here, right, is, like, very expressive. Um, his hairstyle, uh, his stance, I've already said, right? But like, yeah, it's really good. Kishimoto's a great artist. Does Kishimoto know lesbians exist? Um, I feel like in the same way that Hideo Kojima technically knows that women exist because he's heard about them and he's like seen pictures in a magazine, Kishimoto is probably aware that gay and lesbian people exist, but I don't know if he has really spent that much time thinking about it. The burden of his clan's tragedy on his back, obviously it's not literally on his fucking back. Due to his blood, he inherited the Kekkei Sharingan from the Uchiha clan. Is this exceptional ability a pretext to follow the road towards ruin? Notice I think like the punctuation there kind of indicates that this language is kind of meant to be a little bit like hyped and poetic and for excitement rather than super literal. But it does accurately reflect the source. His exceptional clan passed down on him the Sharingan Kekkei and was feared for its superiority. However, due to some accident, the clan had a downfall. Accident's not the best word to describe what happened, but okay. And its glory met its demise. Now they whisper about the clan's tragedy. Brother. The Uchiha clan made a mysterious downfall with only 2 brothers left. Apparently his older brother Itachi is deeply related with the cause. Who's the one who consigned to oblivion the people who had inherited the Uchiha blood in one night? Why did he left only Sasuke and Itachi alive? Only Itachi and Sasuke know the truth. Well, Sasuke doesn't technically know the truth. And that's also not true because Danzo and Hiruzen know the truth. So, again, like, this doesn't mean that the whole Databooks get discredited, right? But it's worth noting that, especially if you think that Kishimoto had a plan for Itachi at this point in the series, which is debatable, but if you think it was planned and not retconned that he was a good guy the whole time, then the Databook is lying to us in order to maintain the illusion of the narrative that is being presented to us by the series. Now, I wouldn't say that this is a mistake, right? It is inaccurate, but it's not like somebody fucked up, like Kishimoto wrote the wrong thing down, or, I gotta turn the page too, that Kishimoto wrote the wrong thing down or something like that. It's that the narrator of the text is being unreliable. The narrator of the text is not being fully transparent with us and giving us an accurate account of what happened, because doing so would run contrary to the narrative of the story. If we take this literally as an inherently expository source of information and assume that it must be factual, then we would assume that only Itachi and Sasuke know what happened, except Sasuke doesn't know, and at least Hiruzen and Danzo do know. And there might be a couple of other people too, like probably, I never remember their names. One of them I think is called like Homura, and then there's another one, the old like advisors that were part of team part of team Tobirama, right, that were there with Hiruzen and Danzo. Like, I think they all know. Obito knows because he was there during the massacre. So, and like presumably like Pain might also know. So like, it's debatable whether or not Kishimoto had this planned out, but if he did, then this is the Databook lying to us in a way that doesn't betray its accuracy or validity inherently, but it does mean that we should be suspicious of the narrator and keep in mind that it is not always going to be telling us the literal factual truth. Because at the end of the day, this is not a literal fucking encyclopedia that is literally just giving us facts. It is an extension of a fictional fantasy story. This is a story that's being told to us. Sometimes the Databooks will give us facts and figures, but a lot of what it does is just additional storytelling. As such, it is part of a fantasy narrative. So its inherent nature has much more to do with it being a fantasy tale than it does being an expository reference text. Right. A meeting with a comrade who feels pain in his lonely heart. Sasuke, who had, again, like figurative language there. Sasuke, who had been ignoring both love and friendship until then, met Naruto and Sakura, and he did it little by little, but he started to accept them as comrades. For Sasuke, before he became aware of it, Naruto became a good rival that boosted his strength, and his heart was also rescued by Sakura. when it was about to be swallowed by Orochimaru's wicked cursed seal. Again, like figurative language there, but the heart being swallowed and stuff like that. The existence of comrades softened Sasuke's desolate heart, more figurative heart language, which was whirling in revenge, more figurative language, and probably a day that will bring a peaceful time will come. Sakura personally risks her life for Sasuke, who was going on a rampage for the influence of the cursed seal. Sakura's feelings for Sasuke wrap up his evil strength. Again, like feelings wrapping up and stuff like that. For Sasuke, comrades are nothing but a hindrance that stands in his way. That's not true the entire time, because he does eventually form a bond of respect with Naruto, and it's kind of like back and forth, right? Naruto unravels the obstinate Sasuke's heart, again, in a bittersweet way. So again, like this is tongue-in-cheek, right? Literally tongue-in-cheek dad joke time. But yeah, like the narrator is making a joke about the scene here. So basically, like one way to think about this is like the form of exposition that's happening here is almost as though you're like a teenager and Kishimoto is sitting down with you and he's explaining stuff to you. He's like, hey, you remember this time where Sasuke and Naruto had this little kiss? I guess you could say he was unraveling his heart, wink wink nudge nudge, right? Like that's the kind of tone of voice that's being used here. This is it's telling you a joke. It's telling you a joke after like sort of subtly, slyly kind of lying to you. That's that this narrator is very playful, it's very fluid, very dynamic. So and also again, if we're talking about something that Sage likes to do in his videos is he'll just show a page like of Kakashi's entry in the third data book, I think it is, and be like, see, look at this one page, there's nothing on here that seems inaccurate, right? It's expository. Well, here's an example of like how many let's just count, right? How many times does the heart get used in a figurative way on this one page, or yeah, on page 41? So lonely heart, there's one. Unravels the obstinate heart, or not obstinate Sasuke's heart, there's two. Became aware, good rival that boosts his strength. His heart was rescued, that's 3. These system comments, that's 4. Whirling and revenge is not, doesn't use the word heart, but that's another instance, so that's 5. Wrap up his evil strength, so that's 6. It's not heart related, but it's 6. Okay, so there are somewhere between 4 and 6 instances on this one page of the heart and emotions being described in figurative terms. So that's just my main fucking problem, is that like like don't fucking cherry pick shit. Like show the show the full context. Let me catch up on chat real quick. Speaking of lesbians, I must go. Moi moi, kisses. All having dinner with my special person for International Lesbian Day. Happy International Lesbian Day. Please go enjoy good, happy, fun lesbian times and food and togetherness. You deserve it. I hope you have a wonderful night. Why didn't the Databook spoil the series' biggest pluses for no reason? Is Kishimoto stupid? Yeah, like what is he, dumb? Like, he's supposed to expose information to us in an unbiased way. He's not supposed to be having a party on the page, guys. Grammarly said so. So like, why is he like making jokes about boys kissing and then lying to us? I mean, like, come on. He must be stupid. So good. A battle of Uchiha. His blood and natural talent can make it possible. Sharingan awakened. Oh, let me flip the page too. I think we'll try to go to page 50, and then I might have to call it for tonight. I was hoping to get through the entire first data book. That shit ain't happening. We still have a long fucking way to go. So what I'll probably do after the stream is put up a poll. If you guys want me to keep doing the series, should we resume from here next time, or should we jump to the jutsu entries? Because those are the ones that wind up being more contentious. So maybe we'll jump around. I'll think about that later. But yeah, I think I got like another half an hour in me, and then I'm going to collapse. His Sharingan, which suddenly awakened during the fight, appears into both his eyes. The ability of a Kekkei Genkai that must be feared, that owns also the ability of the Jutsu copying Eye of Insight and Hypnotism. Sasuke obtained the Uchiha's power of blood. I'm going here, it's hard to see. Not only he copied Lee's Taijutsu, but he arranged it and sublimated it into his original technique. The language there is a little imprecise for translation, but the overall gist is there, it's no problem. Ability and strength, they can make mastery possible, sure. The Sharingan is feared because it copies the techniques of the enemy that's fighting. However, not only the power of the Sharingan is frightening, it's his sense of fight that gives life to the technique he copied and creates a new technique of himself. Sasuke's ability surpasses even his Kekkei Genkai. Um, yeah, so I think the interpretation there that I would suggest is that it's not that Sasuke's ability surpasses his own ability, which also is his Kekkei Genkai. It's that, like, you can't just define Sasuke's genius by the fact that he has a Kekkei Genkai. He uses his Kekkei Genkai. That makes him a genius. It makes him, like, it gives him extreme talent. But then also, he uses that in a way that is particularly effective and innovative. It's not just that he got born with this special gift. It's that he combines that with other things, and that's what makes him a supremely, like, talented and special individual, right? Successor. While being a Genin, Sasuke mastered Kakashi's only original technique, Chidori. I genuinely wonder if that's true. Kakashi has copied a whole bunch of shit. I think we talked about this before, right? Is it actually the case that the only technique that Kakashi ever invented of his own was Chidori? Because it might be the case. Maybe everything else is just stuff that he copied. But I would be curious to know. Despite its incomplete, the greatness of its ability is bottomless. Again, like, that's, like, please don't take that literally for power scaling. It looks like that he will grow into a being equal or superior to Kakashi in the future. Okay, that's fine. Again, like, the language is a little imprecise here. Let's not make fun of the translator or anything. Like, they did their best, and they did something that was nice and volunteered this information for us. That's great. And also, it's fine to acknowledge that there are some mistakes. Blood and Cursed Seal, these two curses will push him towards being an Avenger. Orochimaru, the fate of the blood that will revive the Uchiha clan, and the Cursed Seal, which is the spiritual energy that Orochimaru etched into him. Okay, so obviously, like, the spiritual energy being etched into him is sort of accurate, but also, it's, it wasn't, like, literally carved. Like, you'll find a lot of instances of the phrase, like, carved into his heart throughout the Databooks. And, you know, just don't take that literally. The only instance in which that's really literal is, like, Obito getting a tag on his heart, like a curse on his heart. But there aren't, like, Orochimaru's not reaching into his fucking chest cavity and, like, doodling on his heart, like drawing a little. I just saw some graffiti earlier today of, like, of Freddy Fazbear for some fucking reason, so that's what's in my head. He's not doing that shit. Anyway, these two will lead Sasuke even more to a cruel destiny. What in the world is waiting for him in the future? Just like a snake with its prey, Orochimaru, who has an eye on Sasuke's Kekkei Genkai, the Sharingan bound Sasuke with his Cursed Seal. Okay, as Orochimaru planned, the Avenger will pursue his power. So again, like, everything here is a relatively fine reflection of what happens in the series. I don't see anything here where the language feels, like, totally skewed or out of pocket or anything like that. I will say that the language overall, like, the inclusion of so many double apostrophes and stuff like that is absolutely not fucking consistent with an expository reference text. Obviously, the narrator, the tone of voice, like, it's very hyped up, it's very excited. You would never write a paper, like a scientific paper, or a fucking what was I gonna say, encyclopedia article, or like a news article like this. So sometimes the nature of the text isn't just in the letter of the words that are being said, but even in how they're formatted, and the punctuation that is used. So again, like, we want to talk about the inherent nature of the text. There is no inherent nature of text. The nature of text is derived by its contents. And here we can see by its formatting, by the types of language used, and also by the fucking punctuation, that it's, if we want to categorize it, the using the same label that is applied specifically to things like, you know, scientific research papers does not really fit here. There are better, more accurate labels that we should be using. That being said, Ebisu's next, so let me check up on chat real quick. Why didn't they? Oh, yeah. Says his potential is immeasurable rather than bottomless in Japanese. I guess it's worth noting. Yeah, that's fair. I kind of interpreted both as essentially offering the same basic gist, right? Of, like, this is it's like limitless potential type thing. He can keep on soaring to greater and greater heights. But again, that's fine as a general sense of how impressive and cool he is in context, but it's not something that I would recommend taking literally for power scaling purposes and say like he's fucking boundless or whatever. Like that, just goofy. Okay, so let's take a look at Ebisu. Let's go. Oh my fucking god, bro! I'm like losing. I'm slowly unlearning the English language as I speak, so I can only do this for a few more minutes clearly. But let's try to get to page 50 at least. Okay. Um, Arrogant and secret pervert. I like the favorite foods too. They're fun. See what I mean about like this shit just being kind of fun and lighthearted a lot of the times. So let's see. An elite teacher, Ebisu is very intelligent and skilled in forming seals, an important factor for ninjutsu use. I think this is one of those things where it's like, if you compare his hand seals to somebody like Kakashi, and you might be skeptical of like why he's so high, but maybe he is actually just that good. An elite teacher who learned a valuable lesson with Naruto. He's an elite teacher who trains the Hokage candidates. Ebisu believes he's the best choice to guide one who seeks the Hokage position and is teaching ninjutsu to Konohamaru, the third Hokage's grandson. Asked by Kakashi, he taught Naruto about chakra control. Their second meeting was quite moving. Ebisu was quite curious as to Naruto's growth. After realizing Naruto had faced many adversities for wanting to become Hokage, Ebisu learned to respect the boy. Perfectly fine. I don't see anything wrong with this. And not even wrong. I don't see anything that happens to be inaccurate about this. Now, we could absolutely scrutinize this. We could go through every single statement and we could try to see if it compares to the series. I am trying to do that in my head right now. I'm trying to imagine what actually happened with Ebisu in the chapters. We see him doing the little mental comparison, and all this seems to check out, right? But of course, we could scrutinize this and we could go into a greater deal if we wanted to, but I think this does check out. This is a great example of how, of an instance of an entry that is basically just a summary of the plot, and there's nothing to really question there. This creates a contrast with, and therefore exemplifies an inconsistency with other statements that are much more abstract or playful or non-literal. Moving on to the Demon Brothers, we got Gozu. Is there another one? Yeah, Mezu. I think Goz and Mez, wasn't that, I don't know if these, I think these are references to, actual, like, Oni, right? Yeah, so they're characters in Dragon Ball. They are ox-headed and horse-headed demon generals in Japanese Buddhism and folklore. While not traditional Shinto kami, they are often associated with the Buddhist underworld, and Gozu is sometimes linked to Gozu Tenno, a complex deity linked to Shinto's Susanoo. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, it looks like they're referenced in Inuyasha, Dragon Ball. Here we go. Yokai.com. See if this comes up. Oh great, I'm gonna get cancelled again. Japanese Buddhism, Gozu and Mezu are the demon generals who guard the gates of hell. They appear as terrible Oni with animal heads, an ox for Gozu and a horse head for Mezu. They are extremely powerful and have the strength to move mountains. They are servants of great King Enma, the ruler of hell, and are among the chief torturers and punishers of the wicked. Internactions, Gozu and Mezu are the first demons that one encounters upon entering hell. Should a person manage to escape from hell, Gozu and Mezu are sent out to bring them back. Origin, okay, anyway, it's kind of funny to me that this actually, kind of, like, this is another example of an illustrated database that is, on the surface, kind of formatted like an expository reference text, in that it's essentially providing us with, like, a field guide to these yokai. I wish I had it here. I think it's downstairs, but I have that book that I mentioned called The Night Parade of 100 Demons, which is essentially just that. It's like, it's something that's formatted like you would find like a field guide to birds or whatever, but it's formatted as a guide to a yokai. Like, if you're wandering around in Japan and you bump into a yokai, this is what they're going to look like. This is the type of food they eat, right? But even so, even this particular thing says things that are not necessarily true, like extremely powerful and have the strength to move mountains. It's like, please don't fucking just take that, say that they're mountain level necessarily. Come on, like, I can just see it happening now. Anyway, getting back on point here. Has a horn and a poisonous claw on his right arm, cool and cruel. Younger brother has 2 horns and a poisonous claw on his left hand, the more violent one. Okay, combined battle technique that uses a blood bond. They are Kirigakure ninjas hired by Gato to murder Tazuno. They perform an incredible combined attack that's only possible because they are twins. So, wonder if this is literally true. I wonder if, would it not be possible for somebody to do something like this with a shadow clone? They use a special chain with claws on both ends and blades in every link to tear their enemies apart and create a true bloodbath. Their attack starts by inhaling and ends by exhaling. It's as if they finished the service with a single breath. The Devil Brothers' combined attack. They coolly capture and tear the target. Sure, that's fine. And like plenty of the databook entries are actually just like very dry, literal, normal, not boring, but you know, like tame descriptions. So that's totally fine. Some of them aren't really going to have much to talk about. Orochimaru, okay. Page over here, page 46 on the left, and page 47, or 47 on the left, 46 on the right. His favorite words apparently are destruction and chaos. I can just imagine like Orochimaru going around like muttering that to himself, destruction and chaos, destruction and chaos. Yeah. Mission experience, so many fucking missions, like thousands of missions, or well, let's see, above 1,000, not quite 2,000 it looks like. His okay, here we go. So this is something as well, especially if we're talking about things in a power scaling context, right? Where the fuck is my OBS? There we go. So one of the first things that we see written about Orochimaru is that he has a terrible and incalculable power, and that his power can destroy a country. Doesn't that seem to be a little bit at odds for a power scaling purposes? Because if his power is incalculable, then wouldn't we be inclined to say that it would extend beyond like planetary or solar system or even galaxy level or something like that? It would be insanely enormous, right? But then the databook itself gives us a definition for what it considers to be incalculable, destroying an entire country. So if we just slot in power scaling terms, we now have a definition from the expository reference text of Naruto saying that Kishimoto considers don't take this with a grain of salt, obviously. Kishimoto considers incalculable to be synonymous with country level. Now, obviously, I'm being tongue-in-cheek, right? And Orochimaru has no DC feats that put him at country level, as far as I'm aware. Even the crazy shit that he does in the third databooks that have statements about him, like nullifying all attack and defense, even his fucking snake, right, isn't going to just immediately wipe out a country. He's not fucking Ten Tails level, right? But that being said, so what do we do with this statement? Well, he attacked Konoha, and he formed his own country, and he wanted to take down Konoha, and presumably the Land of Fire as well, and like start his own like revolution, essentially. So when they use phrases like can destroy an entire country, in the same way that you wouldn't say that that Orochimaru has a country level creation feat because he created the land of sound, or the sound village. He has a village level creation feat. The creation doesn't fit in with the fucking literal power scaling definition. It has to be understood in context. The context here is that he would bring down the country with his invasion. He didn't do it himself on his own. He didn't succeed at doing so, and he has no DC feats that scale the fucking country level. That's not the point. That never was the point. This wasn't designed, this databook was not designed for, like, power scaling bullshit. It is an overall, like, more abstract, more loose, and less literal description of specifically what his ambitions are and what the consequences of his actions as an agent in the story are. Ambitious and Wicked is a great plan to devour the world. Again, he's not literally going to eat the fucking planet. So please, for the love of God, don't, like, if you catch anybody out there being like, Orochimaru plans to literally eat the world, so he's planetary, like, you can tell him to fuck off. you can politely but firmly ask them to leave. Fucking Hank Hill style. He's the ninja who was once acclaimed as one of the Sannin, the legendary three ninja. He's powerful enough to clearly state that he's superior to the third Hokage. Like a snake, his obstinate nature makes him terrible. Cruel and calculating, he uses any means to reach his objectives and does not hesitate in playing with the lives and feelings of others. All that seems true to me. He abandoned Konohagakure and currently leads a group of ninjas from the Otogakure, which he founded. During the training exam, Orochimaru revealed he acts in the shadows. With his insatiable ambition, he takes the world towards the path of death and chaos. Orochimaru's disturbing shadow darkens the Konohagakure. Right? So there's a mixture there of, like, again, please don't literally think that he eclipsed the fucking sun and like darkened the entirety of the village, of the square footage, with his shadow. It's a metaphor, right? It's non-literal language, it's figurative language. And then also, it's fair to describe him as cruel and calculating. Even though that's not scientific language, it is literal. Right? His diabolical plan proceeds, he sacrifices others for his ambition. Diabolical is arguably figurative. The shadow of her ex-master appears in Uncle's memories. He's capable of anything. Don't take this out of context. Capable of anything, meaning more like there's nothing, like, I think the way to interpret that is that there's nothing that he wouldn't do if he could do it. Like, he doesn't have any scruples. He's not going to let morality stand in the way of him achieving his goals. That doesn't mean he has infinite power, of fucking obviously, but just to be clear. He manipulates others like they are his puppets, or they are puppets. Even today, no one has ever escaped his claws. I don't know if that's true. Because Anko, like, obviously wasn't killed by him initially. Let's see. Turning to page 48 into 49 here. Orochimaru stole the faces of the Kusakakure ninjas to infiltrate the Chunin exam, which happened in Konohagakure, and stealthily took action in the Forest of Death. Okay, simple plot summary. His objective was Sasuke, the Uchiha clan heir, once considered the best clan of the entire village. The ambitious predator advances. He could not hide his nature before the blood in the Forest of Death. Okay. Orochimaru plays with Sasuke and tests the boy's power. It was only the start of his terrible plan. The real function of the curse mark left on Sasuke's neck has yet to be revealed. The mysterious whereabouts of the Kusakakure ninjas, the whereabouts of the two Otogakure ninjas who infiltrated with Orochimaru, disguised as Otogakure ninjas, is unknown. There are 3 corpses total. The other 2 accomplices must be hidden somewhere. Purpose. After the second phase of the Chunin exam, the evil shadow became denser. Orochimaru acted in the background with Kabuto, his right arm. Okay, not literally his right arm, right? Meanwhile, the village was in alert due to Orochimaru's presence. The purposes mixed up and the plot went on. The terrible plan capable of devastating the world, not planetary, came into action. Kabuto's a spy and is involved in the plot. The Uchiha clan, the Otogakure, what are Orochimaru's true intentions? Okay, so far, again, like, this is mostly pretty literal, pretty straightforward, and this is just like a description, a summary, a reminder of what happened in the story. There is nothing wrong with taking this as a reference and a source of how would you say, a source of understanding of the series yeah, you know, there's nothing wrong with using this as a reference to remind yourself what happened in the series, to teach other people what happened in the series. That's all totally fine. The only mistake is if bullshit ass power scalers come in and try to use this terminology. I probably I'm sorry, that felt too harsh. I shouldn't use words like that. That's too that felt kind of mean spirited. So I apologize for that. I think I'm just kind of like losing patience because I'm tired. But yeah, let me not be so mean. I apologize. When fucking bullshit ass no, when people come in from a power scaling perspective and they are just filtering the data and specifically looking to harvest and mine quotes, this can tend to result, not necessarily due to any inherent desire to mislead or any dishonesty, but if you have the certain blinders on or filters on, you know, you might be inclined to simply select statements that happen to benefit your position. I don't even know if I would be even hesitant to say that people are being dishonest when they do this. Some people probably are, but I think that it's more just a habit or a reflex, right? Like, if you're trying to build an argument, to build a case for something, you're going to go look for things that support your case. And if you find them, you're probably going to be excited and be like, yeah, fuck yeah, cool, I found the thing. Now I'm going to go share it with people. There's not necessarily any malice of forethought or any, like, dishonesty in that. I think it's a very natural inclination. But we need to be vigilant of that sort of thing, because this is like unknown unknowns, right? Like, we can unknowingly, the human brain is very fallible and very pattern seeking and very like can hyperfixate. Like, we are extremely fallible, error prone creatures, and so the only way to try to it's essential that we become aware of what our flaws are and try to account for that when we're doing any sort of research whatsoever. We are extremely easy to fool. Our perceptual abilities are very limited, and it is very important that we be very careful when we go through stuff here, through any sort of research process. So to to be fair and to be very clear, my interest is never in saying like this person sucks. They don't think good. Their brain is poop. Like I don't ever want to make anybody feel bad. I am acknowledging a global human truth, planetary level human truth, that we are prone to making mistakes, and we are prone to being to looking for things that stick out to us based on our own biases and based on our own interests. And if we want to be fair and unbiased and accurate, we need to be aware of that and work really hard against our brain's like natural tendencies to do that sort of thing. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't even mean you're necessarily dishonest if you do that. Because I'll tell you right now, everybody fucking does that all the fucking time with various things. So when we agree to deliberately engage in research, part of the requirements for doing that, part of the cost of admission, is that we acknowledge that and we try really fucking hard to be aware of that. That's all I'm saying. Let me finish this up and then I'll check in with chat. Konohagakure trembles. Okay, not literally. Like he doesn't shake the whole fucking village. During the last and main phase of the training exam, Orochimaru's plan reached its climax under the gaze of the participating village's elites. It's revealed that the Kazekage, having attacked the Hokage, was in fact Orochimaru in disguise. To what point will Orochimaru lead his ambitious plan to dominate the village? Identity revealed. The ambitious Orochimaru shows his fangs. Master against disciple. The sky roared and the ground split. A battle without precedence has begun. So, I think I talked about this on stream before. The sky didn't literally roar. The ground might have sort of split, but it's debatable what exactly this is referring to. A battle without precedence? I don't know about that. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if you can fairly say that like no fight previously in Shinobi history, including say I don't know Madara versus Hashirama, that there was no precedent for a fight like this. I mean, like Tobirama invented the Edo Tensei, so like even that part of the fight had been used before. Hashirama had fought with Enma before, right? So is it, maybe you could say that this is specifically referring to the fact that two dead Hokage were specifically fighting one alive Hokage with a Sannin present? So you can find an interpretation that works, but also you can also identify how this could be incorrect from a certain perspective. So my point is not throw it all out. My point is also not just gobble it all up. My point is, in order to genuinely understand what the fuck this is talking about, it's worth considering it in context. And if we're still on the whole like inherently expository reference text ticket, there are even more examples of non-literal figurative language, like the sky roared and the ground split. So I think we're probably up to like 20 or 30 by now. And well, I'm going to stop here for tonight after catching up with chat. Just be aware, we are on page 48. The character summaries usually don't have that much hyperbole compared to the jutsu descriptions. The jutsu stuff is where it really starts getting juicy in terms of the hyperbole being used. And I definitely am going to go over like the jutsu entries in the first data book as well as the other ones. But for context, right, we're on page 48. The contents of the data book itself, before we get to like the interviews and the bonus content, like the real meat and potatoes, goes to at least page 200, I think, right? 202, let's see how far. Here are the jutsu entries. So they end at about 226. Okay, so we still have a long way to go. And we've already encountered, depending on how you slice it, somewhere between 20 and 30 instances of figurative language. I will ask you genuinely if you think we have already crossed the threshold into non-expository text at this point. I personally think we have. I think it's very clear that we have. But maybe you don't agree. And if so, that's fine. I'm not asking you to agree with me. What I would ask is that for next time, think about if you are not yet convinced that these data books are not inherently expository reference text or mostly expository reference text, or that it's safe to take everything literally, what would it take to change your mind? I'm not asking you so that I will like prepare the counter to your argument next time. I'm asking you to internally just ask yourself, how many instances and what will those instances need to be like to make you challenge your preconceived notions about it? if you are currently convinced that the databook is X, X being inherently expository reference, and you're inherently taking any given statement for granted as being true until proven otherwise, how many more, you know, instances does the databook get to use before you question that preconceived notion and start to view it as more dangerous? That's not not dangerous, more unreliable. That's not a rhetorical question. I would like to ask you guys, if you've gotten through this video, first of all, thank you for your time. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for participating in this process. Think about what it's going to take, if anything. And the next time we meet, I'd like to know what you think. I'd like to know if any of you are watching this and you've changed your mind. You used to think the databooks were inherently expository, now you don't. Why? At what point did you start changing your mind? At what point in this video did you start to question things and start to think differently? Or if at the end of this process you're feeling even more conviction in your belief that we should believe the databooks, why is that? Again, not rhetorical. I want to know what you guys are thinking. I want to know how you're feeling about this, because my job as I see it is to help clear up misunderstandings, and I can't do that unless I understand what your perspective is. It's not enough for me to just say, I'm right, you're wrong, fuck you. It's not enough for me to say, for example, John just knows better than you. When are you guys going to learn that John just knows better than you? Sit down, shut your mouths and listen, and if you don't agree with me, you haven't read the databooks. That would be a pretty shitty thing to say to people, wouldn't it? It would be pretty disrespectful and rude to respond to people disagreeing with you by saying, you don't know what you're talking about, shut your mouth, sit down, and accept that I just know better than you do. That would be pretty crappy, right? So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to invite further discussion from anyone who wants to take it up. You know where to find me on Discord. Discord link is in my channel description. I encourage anybody who wants to talk about this to reach out. Happy to have a discussion. I am pretty busy. I will try to make time. Thank you to everybody. I'm going to catch up on chat real quick, but thank you to everybody who's been following this. I am totally open to feedback if you want to cover other stuff. I think what I'm going to do on next Friday is I'll post a poll. If you are finding this valuable, you want to keep going through these entries in the character profiles. We'll try to finish the characters next week, and then we'll go to Jutsu the week after that. If you kind of get the gist of the character profiles, I mean, most of them, from my experience, are pretty similar. I think we kind of got the point. I think it might make sense to jump to Jutsu entries next time, but I will see what you guys would prefer. Or we could jump to Databook 2 or 3, but I think probably going to the Jutsu entries next is the thing that makes sense, but I will leave it up to you. How about No says, his terrifying power is said to be enough to conquer a small country single-handedly, remains immeasurable. Japanese is just describing a thing he actually did. Okay, oh, then, yeah, if he conquered the, I think it's referring to him conquering the land that then became the site of the founding of the Sound Village. That makes a lot of sense. Also, Japanese just to say he will stop at nothing to achieve his goals in that one thing, as you surmised. Oh yeah, perfect. I appreciate the confirmation there. Thank you. Confirmation bias is one hell of a shrug. That is very true. Slimy Orb says, I think we did a while ago. Okay, gotcha, yeah. I might have, sometimes I forget if I have mentioned things previously, but I tend to repeat myself, so it's probably not shocking that I might have gone over things a couple of times. Hope it's not too annoying. How about this? Exposition is inherently a stylistic manner of writing. If a character's dialogue in a movie was what's in a databook, I'd call that exposition. Yeah, exposition, I think, definitionally is just the sharing of information, right? It is, let's see, what does internet have to say about the definition of exposition? I'm sure there are many. But let's see. Exposition. Okay, well, obviously there are multiple definitions, but let's see. A large-scale public exhibition or show. The act of expounding, setting forth, or explaining. So just explaining something, right? Writing or speech primarily intended to convey information or to explain a statement, a detailed statement or explanation, explanatory treatise, right? So, yeah, you can explain things in a way that is dry and literal and scientific. You can also explain things in a way that is more persuasive or more vivid or more non-literal, I guess, or figurative is one way to say. That being said, yeah, essays, as an example, might tend to be more dry in terms of their overall diction. But also, like, video essays are a great example of there are plenty of content creators who make video essays that will provide you with a bunch of facts and figures. um, I recently watched H Bomber Guy's video on like vaccines and autism. My partner, as I mentioned before, is a psychiatrist. She works with kids, and so like obviously she has a lot of doctor friends. She's very passionate about that sort of thing, and so we watched it together. And H Bomber Guy will be like, "Here is a documentary. Let's talk about the documentary. Let's talk about the history. Let's talk about the facts." And then he'll do like a comedy skit, and then he'll scream, and he'll throw stuff across the room, right? So like you can absolutely exposit information while also not literally everything that you're saying is meant to be taken seriously or face value. It doesn't have to be just one or the other. So that being said, thank you so much for the discussion. It really means a lot to be able to connect with you guys on this stuff. I am going to continue the streams on Thursday. I'm currently deciding whether to do a. I've been asked to do a FNAF 4 stream, which I may do. I also have my setup for De Racine, which I'm hoping to try. So I'll post a poll maybe Wednesday asking what people would prefer. Open to other suggestions as well. And then we'll continue the Databook stuff after I buy this sick new Honda. Fuck yeah. after come around to next weekend. Please let me know if you have any feedback about this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. In the meantime, I will wish you a great good night and weekend and all of that stuff. Goodbye.